Chapter 1. Jack and Cassandra, Sandy, met in college at the end of their sophomore year and dated during their junior year. They moved in together during the summer break after their junior year. After graduation, they rented a small apartment for a couple of years, and then, as Sandy moved up the corporate ladder and Jack's consulting business grew, they decided to buy a house together. They found an old house built about 1900 that suited their needs and taste. Marriage had been mentioned many times but just didn't seem to be necessary. It was something that they planned to do later when things settled down and they were ready to start a family. But buying the house seemed to bring out the domestic side in Sandy, and she hinted until Jack finally caught on and popped the question. They got married in a small civil ceremony with just a few friends present. Then Sandy continued to pursue her career and Jack concentrated on growing his business. Kids were not in the formula yet. They both still enjoyed their freedom for vacations, hobbies, and other interests. One of Sandy's hobbies was buying and restoring antique furniture. Usually, the smaller things like end tables, knick-and-AC shelves, and such. She loved to go to estate sales and rummage through the lifetime collections of things that families sold off after the passing of a family member. Jack didn't like picking over the bones of the dead, as he called it, but he did appreciate the beautiful old solid wood furniture that she refinished and reupholstered. It made their house very homey and gave him a comfortable feeling. She had even learned how to crochet doilies to add to the feeling. Jack was busy in his home office one Saturday cleaning up the last few things on one of his contracts when Sandy returned from a day of bone picking. He heard her car door, and then shortly afterwards she poked her head in his office door. "Can you give me a hand unloading the car?" she asked. "Sure. Be right there." Jack went outside and found Sandy's Ford Explorer backed up to their detached garage. She was just opening the back when he arrived. "You won't believe the beautiful old wooden steamer trunk I found. It's locked up, so I have no clue what's in it, but I plan to refinish it and use it as a coffee table in the den." Jack tugged the large trunk out of the back and set it on the garage floor while Sandy was rummaging through her tools. "There it is," she exclaimed as she held up a tool that looked like a bent awl. "This is a pick that I use for cleaning out carving on furniture. It should work to open that lock." "Well, I'll leave you to your treasures. Aren't you curious what's inside? Stick around for a few minutes." "Okay. Probably just a bunch of old junk though." A few moments later Sandy triumphantly announced, "There. That's got it. Now let's see what treasures we have." Jack let out a small sigh as she raised the lid. The top drop-in tray was filled with small things. Sandy held up lace handkerchiefs, silk stockings, garter tabs, and other very old bits and pieces of a female wardrobe. She also found a jewelry box containing necklaces, rings, bracelets, earrings, and brooches. There was also an envelope with a letter inside. It was addressed to just Augusta. Sandy pulled out the letter and read aloud, "Dearest Sister Augie. It was so wonderful of you to visit us for the wedding. We thoroughly enjoyed having you here. Too bad you couldn't stay longer, but your tickets didn't permit change. Sorry your trunk didn't arrive at the dock on time for the sailing, but Albert arranged for it to go on the next ship sailing for New York, so you should have it a few days after you get home. All our love, your sister, Hazel. Kidderminster, 1893. I wonder why she never unpacked her trunk?" Sandy questioned. "Who knows?" Jack answered. "Maybe she didn't need what was in it." "I doubt that. She'd have wanted the jewelry at the very least." "Let's see what's in the rest of it," Sandy said enthusiastically. Jack sighed again as he lifted out the tray. Sandy started going through the clothes. She pulled out an old whalebone corset and looked at it. Check this out. What a torture device, but it's really beautiful. Look at the brocade panels, she said as she held it up. Wow. It's huge. She must have been really tall but with a great figure. She laughed at the next item as she held it up for Jack to see. What's that? He asked. She stood up and giggled as she wrapped it around her waist. It's a small bustle, she said as she turned so he could see it poking out behind her. Extra padding to enhance the female caboose. I guess nothing really changes. Now women use tight pants and padded bras, Jack said, shaking his head. Yeah, but it's a lot more comfortable than squishing your waist with a corset and walking around with this thing poking out behind you. At least this is a small one. Back around 1870 or 80 they were huge and stuck out about a foot. This one was just a bit of an enhancer, she said as she continued pulling out blouses with mutton chop sleeves, long skirts, slips, nightgowns and other undergarments, all of them high-quality silk and satin. Then she came to a long formal evening gown. She stood up and held it in front of her. It was beautiful. It was all flowing draped folds and layers from the waist of a pale blue ending at the hem with a wide white ruffle of lace. It was trimmed everywhere with gorgeous white lace. It had a sort of square-cut neckline that would show ample cleavage with wide lace trim over the shoulders. The long sleeves ended with more wide white lace and it had what looked like an apron around the waist, but it was in the back and hung over rear end with a large blue bow. Damn! She was a big girl. Especially for that time period. She must have been 5, 9 or 10. About your height, Jack. And by the look of the corset and the bodice of this dress she had tiny waist and an ample bust too, Sandy said as she moved over to Jack, turned the dress around and put it up against him. You know, as thin as you are, I bet this dress would fit you perfectly if we used the corset. Well, we'll never know because I'm not about to wear a dress and I certainly am not going to be wearing a corset, Jack answered smiling. Now don't dismiss the idea out of hand, Jack. Halloween is coming up in a couple weeks and we have to attend the annual executive Halloween party. This dress would be an absolutely perfect costume. Who knows, it might even win a prize. Fine. You wear it, Jack responded. I already have mine, you don't. I'm 5'6". This dress is way too long for me, but it should fit you perfectly. What about that ample bust thing you mentioned? I certainly don't have that and I don't want to go out in public in drag. I'm no queer. Jack returned. Jack. It's a Halloween party. A lot of guys dress as women on Halloween. I'm going as a high-class call girl and you thought I looked hot in my costume. Does that mean I'm actually a prostitute? Do you think that's what I really am just because I dress as one for Halloween? Jack knew he was between a rock and a hard place. No. Of course not. But I just wouldn't feel right or comfortable in a dress. Everyone at the party would laugh at me. A guy in a dress. I'd be embarrassed, humiliated. Okay. So it's a fragile male ego thing, is it? She asked. I wouldn't put it that way, but if it works for you, okay, blame it on my male ego, Jack responded a bit testily. So what you're saying is that you'd do it if no one at the party knew you were a guy in a dress. Right? I'd know. We weren't talking about you. You said everyone at the party would laugh. But if they didn't know you were a guy in a dress, they wouldn't laugh, right? And if they didn't laugh at you, then you wouldn't have any reason to feel uncomfortable, embarrassed, or humiliated any more than any woman wearing that dress would, and your male ego would remain intact. Right? Jack was getting a good dose of why Sandy was so successful in her job as a contracting officer negotiating contracts with the people they did business with. She was boxing him into a corner. He could feel the walls getting closer but gave it another shot. Yes. If they didn't know, that would be true, but there is no way that they wouldn't know. I'm 5'10". I have facial hair, a deep voice, no hips or butt, and a flat chest. If you put me in a dress, I would look like a guy in a dress. There's just no way around that, he said, confident that he had presented insurmountable obstacles for her to overcome. Sandy had a small smile at the corner of her mouth which gave Jack cause to wonder if he was right. First off, you're just barely 5'9". Second, you shave once a week, and even if you don't, all you have for facial hair is a light downy fuzz. Third, your voice is hardly what I would call deep. I know women that have a deeper voice. With the right tones, inflections, and breath, you'd have a beautiful sultry contralto or alto voice. And fourth, women have been using strategic padding like forever. Enhancing your figure to add what you lack is the least of the problems. But let's not debate the fine points. Why don't we get down to the brass tacks and... Her point-by-point breakdown hurt a bit. Fine, Jack cut in. And just what are those brass tacks? I know you. I recognize your negotiating voice. You have a proposal, so get to it, he said. He had a feeling that he was almost firmly lodged in the corner now. He'd been there before and knew the feeling well. In his mind he thought, at this point it's best to just quit arguing and let her present her proposal. His mind smiled as he thought, yeah. And then I give her whatever she wants every time. Jack leaned back against Sandy's workbench and waited. You're right, of course. What I propose is that you give me this week to make the plans, put things together, and get you ready. You do as I say without bitching or griping, and then next Saturday we get you dressed up and see how you look. You will cooperate with every step, and when we finish, we will have 3 judges evaluate your appearance. You choose 2 and I choose 1. All 5 of us get 1 vote. If I'm right, you wear the dress to the party. If you're right, we find another costume. That weighs the vote in your favor with yourself and 2 friends to myself and a friend. Does that sound fair? Jack stared at her thinking, of course it sounds fair. She always sounds fair, but she always has a kicker in the deal somewhere that sneaks up and bites me in the ass. But I can't see it. I never can. Okay. I agree that it sounds fair, but you're devious and always stack the deck in your favor. That's one of the things I both love and hate about you. It seems I hardly ever win, and when I do, I get the feeling that you planned it that way. Now who the hell am I willing to let see me in a dress? How about Bill and Todd, she suggested. They were their neighbors on either side. I'll even give you Mary and Louise. You're way closer to all of them than I am, what with you working out of the house and me being at work or on business trips so often. That gives you 5 votes to my 2. What the heck, I'll even give up my 2 votes. How's that for a deal? Now Jack knew he was in trouble. She was seemingly giving him a guaranteed out. How could I possibly lose if I have all the votes, he wondered. The only way is if she can actually do what she says and they agree, but I'm sure that's impossible. Okay. It's a deal. Sandy held out her hand and he shook it, sealing the deal. His gut turned. He just knew he had been played but had no idea how or to what extent. Great. Now help me pack everything into the house so I can sort it out. I'll have to get the dress to the dry cleaners and wash and iron the rest. A little later, Sandy left to take the dress to the cleaners and do some shopping. Chapter 2. Jack was busy in his home office working on another contract when Sandy finally arrived home from work. She had called at noon and told him she was leaving work early but would probably still be late because she had a lot of stops to make on the way home. "I wonder what new torture she has in store for me now," Jack said aloud, smiling. He got up from his chair to go greet her and wobbled briefly. He cursed under his breath the high heels that Sandy had bought for him the night before. That morning, she had him put on a pair of knee-highs and the black patent pumps with the 2-inch heels. She told him he needed the practice before Halloween. Jack walked out to meet Sandy with the heels clacking on the hardwood floor of the hallway. He met her in the entryway as she was hanging up her coat. "Well, I see you're still wearing the shoes. How's it going with them? You seem to be doing pretty good," she said as they moved to the den. "Oh, just dandy. My calves are killing me, my toes are cramped and smashed, and these damn stockings are pulling the hairs out of my legs. Other than that, I just love them," he answered sarcastically. "Well, just be glad I started you with only 2-inch heels. I bought you some 3-inch heels tonight for when you master those. The retro-style shoes I ordered for you to wear with the dress have 3-inch heels so you'll be the right height. As for the cramps, you'll work through those as your legs get accustomed to them. And, I told you to shave your legs, so don't whine about pulled hairs if you won't do as I say. You said no bitching or griping, so whining is allowed," Jack responded with a smile. "Now what else have you got in those bags besides shoes?" "Just a few other things to help you practice and get used to moving and functioning while being dressed as a woman." Jack groaned. He had thought this whole thing was just for Halloween, but it was looking like he was going to spend the next several weeks practicing for his role at the party. "Oh, come on, Sandy. This is getting way too serious and complicated. It's just for a couple of hours at a Halloween party. Now hold on, Jack. I'm doing this for you. You're the one that said you didn't want to be laughed at and that you wouldn't be comfortable in a dress. I've thought a lot about that and realized that you were right. I don't want you to be laughed at either, and the only way to prevent that is to make you comfortable while impersonating a woman. Okay, I can sort of see the shoe thing. I don't want to fall on my ass at the party, but other than these damnable heels, there can't be all that much more to it." "Can there? I mean, what more could there be?" "A lot." "You have no idea," she replied. "There's a lot to learn before you'll be comfortable and at ease. You've never had to manage a long dress or skirt for starters. You don't know yet how to walk properly in heels, and the dress only complicates matters. Then there's sitting, turning around with the train, going up and down stairs, going through doors and getting in and out of the car. And then there's boobs. You have to learn how to handle boobs." Jack cut her off with a lecherous laugh. "Heh, heh, heh. Oh, I know how to handle boobs. I'm really good at handling boobs, as you well know." "Yes, I know," Sandy answered, smiling. "But you've never handled them from the other side, dear. You're going to have quite a pair to deal with. At least a very full C, maybe a D cup projecting out from your chest. You aren't used to allowing for them like in tight spaces or even raising your glass to take a drink. You'll suddenly find an obstruction in your way." Jack took a step back. "Now wait just a minute. You're not planning on me wearing a long dress and falsies for the next 2 weeks, are you?" "Very astute, Jack. That's exactly what I have planned, plus a bit more. Ever since we met, I begged you to let that gorgeous hair of yours grow out, and you have, but you always wear it in that darn low ponytail. I want you to let it loose and learn to deal with long flowing hair about your face, down your back and over your shoulders and chest. You have an appointment for a trim, style and body perm tomorrow afternoon. After the party you can go back to your ponytail with not much noticeable difference. Whoa there. A perm? Are you serious? I don't want kinky, curly hair. How will that not be noticeable? A body perm, Jack. It just gives your hair more body and a bit of a wave. Not curls. It'll be fine. I suppose there's more? Jack asked worriedly. Just a few small things I have in mind, Sandy answered, and Jack groaned again. Oh, hush. It's nothing big, but still you need to learn to deal with it. While you're at the salon, they will wax your legs, do a manicure and pedicure, and give you a nice set of acrylic nails. They're also going to give you a complete makeover and teach you a bit about makeup and what colors you should wear. You'll need to practice doing your makeup for the party so you can do touch-ups. Jack backed up again and fell into his easy chair. A few small things? You call long fingernails, having my legs waxed and a makeover a few small things? That's not small. None of this is small. By the time you're done, I won't know myself in the mirror. You're trying to make me look totally like a woman. Exactly. Sandy responded, and how is this not going to embarrass the hell out of me at the salon? Well, you know Janice that owns the salon, right? I talked to her and told her everything, and she understands what we're doing. She also understands you don't want to be embarrassed, so we're going tomorrow because she is closed on Monday and Tuesday. It'll be totally private. Isn't that perfect? Look, honey, I love you dearly, but this is getting out of hand. I don't want to spend the next 2 weeks in drag learning how to be a female. It's just a Halloween party. I went last year as a pirate. We can find a different costume. Seriously, dear, I really don't want to do this. But you agreed and we shook on it. That's like a promise, she pouted. Oh God. I hate it when she does that. Jack thought. But I really don't want to do this. He repeated. Okay, dear. I know you don't want to, so I'll release you and let you go back on your word, she said sullenly and still pouting. We'll think of something else. At this point, Jack felt like a shit. He knew he had shook on the deal and he never went back on his word. His discomfort was turning his stomach sour, and he knew he wouldn't be able to live with this. Seeing her like this and knowing he had let her down was killing him. Sandy saw his discomfort and knew her words and actions were having the desired effect. He's going to break. I know he's going to give in, she was thinking, and she slumped her shoulders and turned to walk away. I'll go start dinner, she said, and took a step. Oh geez. Okay. I'll do it. You're right. I gave my word and I'll follow through. Sandy straightened up and smiled. She had won again. Yippee. Thank you, dear. I know I can always count on you doing the right thing, but seriously, I will let you out of it if you really want me to. She threw that in as an added guarantee. She knew he would reject it. No. I said I would do it and I will. Just do me one favor, please? Jack asked. Sure. What? Sandy responded. Don't make a complete fool of me. I'd never do that, honey. Not a complete fool. She answered, smiling. Now let's get dinner and then I'll tell you all about what I got for you on the way home. Jack and Sandy sat at the kitchen table eating dinner and discussing her plans for the next few weeks and the party. Sandy itemized each of her purchases and enthusiastically explained to a completely unconvinced Jack why each one was necessary and would help him. He was not buying it. I know I said I would do this, but I also think you are going way overboard for a simple Halloween party. Okay, Jack. I'll be completely honest with you. As you already know, since I was promoted to the executive offices, I have had to vastly improve the quality of my wardrobe and upgrade my appearance. Last year was the first time we were invited to the annual Halloween party, and I didn't realize just how much the quality of the costumes mattered. Our over-the-counter pirate and barmaid costumes were far less than acceptable, and I was informed several times after the party to up my game for next year. I've also been reminded several times over the last few weeks. Damn. I'm sorry. I thought you looked great as an 18th century barmaid. I guess my pirate outfit was a little cheesy compared to other costumes I saw, but I didn't realize it mattered. At the lower executive level, everything matters. It's not just job performance but also appearance, what clubs and organizations you belong to, who you know and who knows you. There's a lot of pressure on stuff like that. That's why when I saw that dress I was so excited. It's unique and very high quality. It will be a standout at the party. And that's why you have to be a perfect-looking debutante from the 1890s, or at least as perfect as we can make you. I don't want you to be a caricature of a woman in that beautiful gown. Okay. I understand. I promise to do my best and make you proud of your husband, or wife, or sister, or whatever I am in that dress. Sandy laughed. After the hard time you gave me, I should introduce you as my sister or sister-in-law. It would serve you right. But seriously, you'll be my husband and we'll amaze everyone at midnight. Now come and see all the neat things that I picked up for you on the way home, she said, picking up the bags and heading for the bedroom. When Jack finished clearing the table, he went to their bedroom. Sandy had everything spread out on the bed ready for him. Now, because you weren't with me and couldn't try everything on, you'll have to do it now. I can return anything that doesn't fit. We'll start at the skin and work out, so strip. Naked? Jack asked as he started taking off his shirt and kicking off the heels. Yep. Now first, here are some CDs that I found online today. They had a local supplier, so I picked them up on the way home. They are instructions on how to impersonate a woman's voice. Tonal inflections and mannerisms. There's 5 of them double-sided, and if you do 1 CD a day you should be pretty fair by Halloween. You can even listen to them while you sleep or work. At least that's what the sales literature says. As she looked up at Jack, he was just dropping his boxers. You always could undress fast in the bedroom, she giggled. Now put these on. They're strategically padded panty briefs to give you a little help in the hip and butt area. Oh, you also have to tuck little Jack back out of the way between your legs. And I read online that his buddies should tuck up into your groin, and then the brief will hold it all in place. As Jack struggled but getting them on, he said, You read how to hide a guy's package online? Yeah. You'd be amazed how much information there is about crossdressing online. That's good. Now stand up straight and let me put this around your waist. It's a waist cincher and will give you a bit more curve. Damn, Sandy. That's tight, he complained as she pulled the laces again, then tied them off. She grabbed a tape off her dresser and wrapped it around his waist. Great! 25 inches. We need 24 for the dress, but the full corset should do that easy. It's a good thing you're so skinny. Your 28-inch waist was easy to reduce. I was hoping to get 26 tonight. I'm not skinny. I'm slim. And this thing is cutting me in half. Do I have to wear it? Jack asked with a grimace on his face. Yes. It's the only way to fit you in the dress. So now what? Jack asked, fearing the answer. Put your arms out, Sandy said as she picked up a bra and slid it up his arms. He groaned again as she fastened it behind his back. She picked up a box and opened it, and as Jack watched, she pulled out a breast. And then from another box, another breast. She carefully inserted them into each cup of the bra and stood back to have a look. They look great. Perfect fit. They can be attached to your chest with adhesive, but not now. Maybe after Janice is done with you tomorrow. Attached? To my chest? I can't go around for 2 weeks with these things stuck to me. Let's forget about the glue. Okay, honey. For now. Here, put on this slip. She watched as he put it over his head and let it fall down to his ankles. She smoothed it and adjusted it around his waist as Jack ran his hands over the smooth nylon material and smiled. Feels nice, huh? Sandy remarked, smiling. Here, put this on now, she said as she handed him a long-sleeved white silk blouse. I tried to get things that were close in type and style as what was in the trunk. All of them are at the cleaners, but you should be able to wear them after I pick them up. Sandy watched and smiled as Jack fumbled with the small pearlescent buttons. Here. Let me do that. You're not used to such small buttons, and on the opposite side too. Okay. Now for the skirt, she said as she finished the 4 buttons on each cuff. Put your hands up and slide the skirt down to your waist. Jack did as she said, and Sandy fastened the hook and button at the back and then zipped it up. A perfect fit, she proclaimed as she checked the length and waist. Then she wrapped a wide leather belt around his waist and kneeled on the floor to help him with his shoes. She slipped on some stocking material booties and then the shoes. These are called pads. They're for when you're not wearing pantyhose or stockings. You still need something on your foot. I'm trying the new 3-inch heels to see how you do with them. All right. Now sit on my vanity stool while I brush out your hair. When she finished with his hair, she removed the small studs that he usually wore in his ears and put on a pair of 1.5-inch gold hoops. Okay. Now stand up and do a slow turn and let me check you out. Jack stood up carefully and walked a few steps into the middle of the room and did a slow turn. Sandy smiled. I think this is going to work out just fine. You look fantastic, and we haven't used makeup or done your hair yet. Take a look at yourself, she instructed as she pointed towards their mirrored closet doors. Jack turned and looked. He was stunned for a moment, then took a few steps closer. He stared at his reflection for a bit and then turned from side to side. He finally turned around and looked over his shoulder. My God, Sandy. Except for my face, I look like a woman. I have curves. You were right about that strategic padding. Holy shit! This is scary. What Jack saw was a woman with a great figure dressed in a classic-styled long-sleeved white silk blouse that draped her ample breasts. She wore a dark blue floor-length A-line skirt with a wide leather belt that emphasized her small waist and wide hips. Her long flowing hair fell over her shoulders and came to rest atop her breasts. Even his face seemed to take on a somewhat feminine appearance. You do look good, dear, and don't worry about your face. Janice will take care of that tomorrow. We'll dress you the same way tomorrow morning. I'm taking off at noon again, so be ready to leave here by 1 o'clock. I'm not going there dressed like this, am I? Of course you are. You just said you look like a woman, and when you leave the salon you will definitely look like a woman from head to toe, literally. You wouldn't want to leave there in your male clothing, would you? No. I guess not. Right. Now let's go watch TV for a bit before bedtime. Chapter 3. The next morning Jack took a shower and used Sandy's shampoo and conditioner as instructed. Sandy blow-dried his hair back, brushing it while he was bent over. This will give your hair a lot more fullness and body, and it will flow better. You need to get used to dealing with it loose, she explained. She dressed him in the same outfit as the night before and reminded him that she would be back early to take him to the salon to see Janice. When Jack saw himself in the mirror with his hair full and flowing over his shoulders and down his back, he came to really believe that she could pull his off. His face had become only a minor distraction on an otherwise totally feminine appearance. They had breakfast together and Jack began to realize what Sandy meant when she spoke about learning to deal with his hair being loose. He was annoyed that he had to keep brushing back over his shoulder to keep it out of his face and his food. Sandy laughed and told him, "You'll get used to it, dear. Just watch me and other women and copy their actions. Soon you won't even notice yourself doing it." Jack spent the morning working on some of his contracts and dealing with his hair, the long skirt, the heels, and the boobs. When Sandy got home, she asked him how his morning went. "You don't really want to know," he replied. "Of course I do. I want to help you work through all of your problems. After all, I have a lifetime of experience to share with you." "Okay, fine. You asked for it. The hair is a pain in the ass. It's always falling in my face as I work at the computer. These tits get in my way and block my view of the keyboard. This skirt is a pain too. It gets hung up on everything as I walk, and when I sit the chair wheels roll over it, plus it gets all bunched up under my ass. And speaking of my ass, I feel like I'm sitting on a pillow and it pokes out and hits the back of the chair. And that brings me to another point, namely my hips. They barely fit in my office chair. So, is that enough?" Sandy was laughing almost uncontrollably. "Oh, you poor dear. You've had a female life thrust upon you without the advantage of a lifetime to grow into it. But don't worry. We all deal with those things every day, and I'll teach you how. Just a couple of pointers for now, and then we have to get going. I've seen you at your desk. You're always hunched over your keyboard, so naturally your hair will fall in your face, and of course your breasts will block your view. That's why women sit up straighter. Try it. You'll see the difference." "Okay, so lesson 1 complete. Grab the purse I gave you this morning and let's get out to the car. It's best if I drive or you be having another new experience, driving in heels." At the car, Sandy had to instruct Jack on the fine points of entering and leaving a car in a skirt. They arrived at the salon on time for Jack's appointment, and Janice greeted them at the door. Once inside, she locked the door and turned to look at Jack. "Damn, Sandy. You said he looked good and you weren't kidding." "Okay, Jack. Into the back and remove everything but your panties. We'll start with the waxing and get the bad part out of the way first." In the back room, Jack stripped down with Sandy's help, and then Janice did a once-over. She checked his face, back, chest and abdomen, underarms, and legs. Jack was totally embarrassed and could feel his face getting hot. "Well, this is going to be easy. This isn't meant as an insult, Jack, but you're almost as hairless as a 10-year-old. I have a facial depilatory that will take care of that fuzz. It should last about a month. If you keep using it, the hair will quit growing back after 3 or 4 months. Then you'd never have to shave." Okay, now get up on the table face down. During the next half hour, Jack had what little hair he had on his legs ripped out and had the downy fuzz on his face removed and his pits denuded, after which Janice told him put on a robe and move to a chair at the back of the main salon. You know, guys, I think I've had enough. This is beginning to seriously impinge on my manhood. I mean, in my teens I was embarrassed by my lack of body hair, and now in a short time you've removed what I spent a lifetime growing. Oh, sweetie. It'll grow back. Besides, do you know how ridiculous that sounds? You saying that you're upset because becoming a woman is impinging on your manhood? Of course it is. Now just sit down and let Janice do her thing. Jack sat and the chair was leaned back and his neck was fitted into a cutout space in the sink, and Janice washed his hair. He immediately relaxed as the warm water and her long nails massaged his scalp. Now this I could get used to, he told her. When she finished, she wrapped a towel around his head and raised the chair back. Okay. Now come with me to my station and let's get started on you. Jack sat in her chair and she draped a cape over him and fastened the Velcro tab around his neck. She removed the towel from his head and started to comb out his hair. Sandy said you had nice hair, and she was right. It should be truly beautiful when we're done. Now just hold still while I fit this cap on your head. What's that for? Jack asked. Well, your hair is a beautiful chestnut brown but is rather monotone. I'll pull a few strands of your hair through these holes and then use some medium blonde color on them. Then when your hair is done you will have what looks like natural blonde highlights. It's totally natural looking, unlike the ones done with the foil strips which leave wide blonde streaks in your hair. Blonde highlights? I don't know about that. Can we just skip this part? Where's Sandy? Sandy had some shopping to do, and no, we can't skip it unless you want to explain to her why. Besides, after Halloween I can always dye the highlights back to your regular color if you want. Jack thought about it for a bit as she started to pull strands of hair through the holes. He decided that as long as she could undo it afterwards, it was better to just go along than to have to explain his reluctance to Sandy. Okay. Go ahead, he said. I thought so, Janice said, smiling. Trust me. You'll love it, Jack. And she continued until she had hair pulled through all the holes, and then she applied the blonde coloring to his hair. After it finished working, she rinsed it out and removed the cap and then fixed the color. Afterwards she put his hair in rollers and added the perming solution. Then she wrapped his head and led him to the dryer. With that head of hair you have, this is going to take a while, so I'll do your nails. Just lean back, close your eyes and relax while I work. Jack did just that and had soon dozed off into a half sleep. When the timer went off, Janice lifted the dryer hood and checked his hair. Good. Looks like you're done. Let's go over to the wash chair and I'll rinse the solution out. She rinsed and neutralized the solution and then took out the curlers and took him back to her station. As he sat down, he noticed a strangeness in his fingers. His nails specifically. He pulled his right hand from under the cape and looked at the long nails on his hand. They all extended a 1/4 inch past his fingertips and were a super high gloss dark red. Holy shit! What did you do to my nails? It's the latest in acrylic nail technology. They are virtually unbreakable and are bonded to your natural nails, so there's no chance of fungus or infection between the acrylic and your nails. How do I get them off? You don't. They're permanent. You have to wait for them to grow out, but after Halloween I can remove the polish and file them back to your normal length, so don't worry. Now relax while I put the larger curlers in your hair. Sandy said it wouldn't be a kinky curly. It won't, will it? Jack asked. No. This is just a body perm, not the heavy-duty perm you're thinking about. This will just give your hair more body and a soft natural wave. When she finished, she said, "Okay, Jack. Time for the dryer again. This time I'll do a pedicure, so just go ahead and relax again." Some time later she shut down the dryer again and tested his hair. "Great, Jack." Back to the other chair. "This is like musical chairs," Jack said as he glanced down at his feet and saw the 10 dark red toenails. He let out a sigh and thought, well, at least they're not longer. He sat at her station again and she told him, "I'm going to work on your face while your hair cools down, so I'm going to lean the chair back a bit. I'm going to explain every step and show you what I'm using so you can practice between now and Halloween. Sandy wanted you to be able to do this pretty much by yourself so you can do touch-ups alone at the party, but first I'm going to clean up and neaten your brows." Janice started plucking his brows and he got worried again. "Hey! Take it easy there. You can't fix them if you take off too much. Relax, Jack. I'm just cleaning up stray hairs and shaping them a bit." When she finished, she said, "Okay, Jack. Listen carefully and try to remember as much as you can. What you forget, Sandy can help you with, but you need to know this. I'm using colors to complement your skin tones and will give you everything I use to take home with you." She then carefully explained every step from blemish cover to foundation and blush. Then lip liner and lipstick, and onto his eyeshadow, mascara, and eyeliner, finishing with the eyebrow pencil. Jack was completely confused. "I'll never remember all that," he said. "Don't worry. Sandy will be teaching you every morning and on the weekends. You'll be good enough to hold your own at the party. Now we'll sit you up for one last thing before we take your hair down." "There's more?" Jack asked. "Yes. One more thing. Sandy wants me to pierce your ears. My ears are already pierced. She conned me into doing it when we were in college. Well, now she wants them pierced again for the party. She said that you can just take them out afterwards and they'll heal up, but for the party she wanted them pierced again." Jack let out a large sigh and groaned, "What the hell? With all the rest you both are doing to me, what's 2 more holes in my ears?" But he wasn't prepared for the second sting in his right earlobe. "Hey! How many are you doing?" he asked. "Just 2 more in each ear," she said as she did the same to his left earlobe. "There. That's done. Now we'll get those curlers out of your hair." After removing the curlers, she brushed out his hair and trimmed a few places and declared him complete and removed the cape. Just as he was about to get up and look in the mirror, Sandy came through the back door carrying several bags. "Don't look yet, honey. I want to get you completely dressed before you see the finished product. Come into the back room." Jack swore under his breath but followed her into the back, wondering what she had in the bags. He tried to get a quick glance in some of the other mirrors in the salon, but they were all at the wrong angle. In the back room, Sandy explained, "All right, Jack. First thing is to lay face up on the table again. No more waxing. I've had it with that. No, dear. Janice is going to attach the breast forms with adhesive and use makeup to hide the seams. That way you can get used to the feel and weight on your chest." "Glued on? For how long?" "Until you see Jenny, my daughter, on the day of the party. She is going to make you an appliance that will look totally realistic for Halloween," Janice said as she removed his robe and guided Jack to the table. "Your daughter is in on this now? Pretty soon the whole town will know." "Why does she have to know?" Jack asked. Sandy smiled and said, "Jenny is a professional makeup artist for TV and the movies. She specializes in making appliances to make the actors look like monsters and zombies and such. She's going to measure you this weekend and then make an appliance that will make your breasts look so totally real that even you won't be able to tell they aren't real. These forms are good, but Hay won't bear close scrutiny, and I guarantee that the guys at the party will be giving them a lot of close scrutiny. Oh joy. Now I'm going to have guys ogling my boobs. Wonderful. Welcome to our world, Jack," Janice said, giggling. "Now up on the table and lay down." She then carefully cleaned his chest and then located and marked the placement of the form and glued them in place while working the edges down. After they had set, she applied a long-lasting theatrical makeup. This stuff will last for several weeks and you can shower, swim, or hot tub with no problem. Okay, you're done. Now Sandy can get you dressed. Sandy got up from her chair as Janice left the room. Okay, honey. I heard you loud and clear earlier about your clothes, hair, boobs and so on. I already told you that if you stand and sit straight, it will minimize those problems, but I can also tell you that with boobs your size, forget about ever seeing you feet other than in a mirror, she said with a long giggle. Then continuing, as for the long skirt, I did some shopping and bought you some knee-length skirts and a couple nice dresses. I hope they fit okay. I think you'll like them. You'll still have to practice with the long skirt, but these will give you a break now and then. The liking is all relative. Frankly, I don't like any of this, but you've got my word until after Halloween, so let's see what you have. She handed him a pair of pantyhose and instructed him on putting them on. He was surprised at the different feel now that his legs had been waxed and moisturized. Wow. Now that feels different. Kinda nice, huh? Try running your hand over your legs and then rubbing your legs together, Sandy suggested. Yeah, that's nice too. So now where? Jack asked. The waist cincher. Jack groaned. Do we have to? Couldn't you have bought larger stuff so I wouldn't have to wear that damn thing? Nope. We need to train your waist and you need to get used to the restriction. Now turn around while I tighten it. She pulled and Jack grunted and groaned until she tied off the laces. Now you can handle the rest. Put on the bra, blouse, and then your skirt and shoes that I have laid out over there. The skirt is lined so you don't need a slip. Jack was struggling with the bra until Sandy stepped in and helped him. Thanks. I'm not used to these things being attached and my arms don't bend around my back like yours do. That's okay, honey. You'll get used to it pretty quick. And they're not things. They're your breasts. Okay, now here's your blouse. Soon Jack had the white cotton long-sleeved blouse on and stepped into the knee-length black pleated full skirt. Then he slipped his feet into the pair of black pumps with a 3-inch medium heel. Is that it? Or do you have more surprises in store for me? Jack asked. Oh, there are definitely more surprises for you, but that's it for clothing right now, Sandy said as she stepped closer to Jack and fluffed his hair a bit and smoothed his skirt. There. You look fantastic. I think it's time you got a look at yourself. She took his hand and led him back into the salon. Okay. Close your eyes and I'll guide you. I want this to be a complete surprise when you first see yourself. Sandy guided Jack over to a triple-paned full-length mirror and Janice stood next to it with her camera at the ready. Sandy positioned Jack and said, "All right, honey. Open your eyes." Jack opened his eyes and his first reaction was to look around for his reflection. Flash, that was when it hit him that the woman in the mirror was mimicking his movements. Her head was twisting from side to side and her long waves of hair were flowing back and forth in time with his motions. Flash, that's when he stopped searching and just stared. He looked at what she was wearing and confirmed that it was his reflection and his mouth dropped open. Flash, oh my God! What have you done to me? He asked. And Janice's camera flashed again. You're a knockout, honey. You have an amazing figure. You're going to look amazing in that dress on Halloween, Sandy enthused. Janice stepped closer and said, You really do look good, Jack, or should we call you Jackie now? Your facial features are a tiny bit broad, but they still fall within the normal bounds for a woman. With a nose job, brow lift, cheek and chin work, you would be gorgeous. But with makeup I was able to compensate for most of that, and Sandy can show you how to do it. Yeah, thanks. I think. And it's still Jack and always will be. This is just until Halloween. Well, I have one more gift for you. Actually, it's from my daughter. Close your eyes and open your mouth. Okay, now take a deep breath in through your mouth, Janice instructed. As Jack breathed in, she sprayed into his mouth from a small canister like a breath freshener. Jack choked and gagged and was about to speak when she put her hand gently over his mouth and said, Don't say a word until I tell you. This spray will temporarily raise the pitch of your voice by tightening your vocal cords. It lasts about 8 to 12 hours and then you can use it again. I gave Sandy 6 more for you. Okay, give it a try. Say something. Jack cleared his throat and said, That tastes like. Holy shit! My voice. I sound like a girl. You're sure this is temporary, right? Absolutely. And with those voice CDs Sandy told me about to help with your inflection and vocabulary, you should sound about perfect by Halloween. Oh honey, you sound wonderful. No one will ever guess you're anything other than a genuine woman. Now we have to get going. Thank Janice and I'll help you on with your new coat. Jack turned to Janice and said, Thanks, Janice. I think, and turned to see Sandy holding up a long coat for him. He slipped into the coat and Sandy told him to put his hands behind his neck and pull his hair out from under the collar as she demonstrated the action. He did, and she buttoned the coat and did up the belt around his waist and then handed him his purse. Okay. Now hook your thumb under the strap and hold your fingers up like this, she instructed, demonstrating with her own purse. Now put the strap over your shoulder while sweeping your hair out of the way with your fingers. See? That keeps you from getting your hair caught under the strap. Jack followed her instructions and then turned to the mirror again to stare at the young woman standing there in her coat with her purse slung over her shoulder. He was impressed with his appearance but scared at the same time. Between the two of them, Sandy and Janice had made all vestiges of his male self disappear and created this good-looking woman. A thought ran through his mind, if it was that easy to make me look totally like a woman, how much did I look like a man to begin with? Sandy broke him out of his thoughts when she took his arm and said, All right, Jackie. It's time we got going and let Janice go home. She turned to Janice and said, Thank you so much. You did a fantastic job on Jackie. It was a pleasure. I'll see you both again on Halloween when we do your makeovers for the party. And don't forget, Jenny will be at your place this Saturday to measure and mold Jackie for her appliances so she can have them ready for the party. Good luck, you two. Chapter 4. Jack and Sandy left the salon, but instead of going to their car parked in front, Sandy steered Jack down the sidewalk. What are you doing? The car's right there. It's dinner time. We're going to Guido's. I feel like some Italian. My treat, are you nuts? I can't go in there like this. Like what? Like this, he said, indicating his clothing. Dressed like this. Like a woman. Jackie. You saw yourself in the mirror. You heard your voice. If it looks like a woman, walks like a woman, and talks like a woman, what will people think it is? Now relax. You need the exposure so you act and feel natural on Halloween. You're killing me here, Sandy. Okay. Fine. Let's go. Just remember to do the things I've told you. Small steps, smooth your skirt when you sit, smile, speak softly and watch me. Try to copy my actions. Halfway down the block they reached Guido's. As they entered the lobby, Sandy removed her coat and draped it over her arm. Jack followed suit, switching his purse from one hand to the other just as she had done. The hostess greeted them and Sandy asked for a table for two and they followed her to the table. He watched Sandy's every move like a hawk and did his best to imitate her movements. You're doing great, honey, but try to not stare at me so hard. Be more relaxed and casual. You'll draw less attention, she said quietly. Relaxed and casual, Jack said in a strained whisper. I'm a guy sitting here in a restaurant with a bazillion people all around me while dressed in a skirt and blouse and wearing makeup and you say to relax? I'll be lucky if I don't have a heart attack. Calm down. Or do I need to slap you like the hysterical woman you're acting? Take a deep breath and look at the menu. The waitress will be here soon and you need to order. Jack took that deep breath and several others and did eventually calm down a bit, and by the end of dessert he was actually beginning to enjoy himself. Sandy's casual banter about their plans and the meal helped to distract him. He was even able to follow her to the ladies' room to freshen up after the meal. The fact that no one seemed to notice anything out of place did a great deal to bolster his confidence, and it showed in his more relaxed demeanor. He realized that Sandy had been right and that he did look good enough to pass in public. But he still didn't like it. Not one bit. Back at home he spent the rest of the day dressed and tried to do a little catch-up work for his time lost that afternoon. The long nails drove him crazy when he used the keyboard, but Sandy helped when she told him to use the tips of his nails. It worked, but was still a bit awkward. You'll adjust to it, dear. After dinner, Sandy led him to the bedroom where she revealed some more of her shopping purchases. I thought that you might like this. It will sort of keep you in the right frame of mind all night, she said as she held up a baby blue satin nightgown with white lace everywhere. Then she pointed to the bed saying, I also bought you some nice satin panties to sleep in and a robe and some mules with a short 2-inch heel that match the robe. Aren't they beautiful? Yeah. Beautiful. But you're getting way too carried away with this whole thing. You must have spent a small fortune buying all this stuff today, not to mention the salon trip, and just exactly what is Janice's daughter going to cost? For crying out loud, honey. It's a freaking Halloween party. Even if it is an executive competition thing. All this money for what? Clothes and shit that I'll never use or wear again. Jack complained. I really haven't spent that much. Not when you consider that some of the other costumes at the party will cost upward of $1,000 or more, and we got the dress for free. And who says you'll never wear them again? I really enjoyed lunch with my girlfriend today. Maybe we could do it again every once in a while, Sandy said with a big smile. Oh no. Not happening. My promise ends when we get home after the Halloween party, and I can guarantee you that I will never let you wangle me into anything like this again. Ever. We'll see what the future brings. But for now, strip and put everything on. Then we'll get that makeup off your face and have a nice night drinking some wine and watching a movie I picked up. And then, who knows what might happen. The rest of the week went as well as can be expected. Sandy went to work and Jack worked on his contracts, albeit rather uncomfortably. Even though Sandy had bought him shorter skirts, she insisted that he wear the long ones during the day as practice for the party. Plus he was still dealing with the long hair and breasts, although more successfully, and with the long fingernails. He was also having to deal with the restriction of his waist, which Sandy had tightened down to 24 inches by the end of the week. On Saturday, just after lunch, the doorbell rang, and without thinking, Jack answered it. By the time he was standing with the door wide open, it was too late, so he just said, "Can I help you?" to the young lady standing on the porch. She smiled and put out her hand and replied, "You must be Sandy." "I'm Jenny. My mom told me about your husband and I'm here to get measurements to make his appliance for the Halloween party." Jack was a little flustered that she thought he was Sandy but let it slide and said, "Oh, yes. Please come in." After she was in, he guided her to the kitchen as she requested, and then he called out for Sandy. "Honey, Janice's daughter is here. We're in the kitchen." When Sandy walked in and introduced herself, Jenny was visibly confused. You're Jack? That's amazing. I'd never have guessed, and I spend my days making people look like somebody or something else. Wow. You're a natural. Jack wasn't sure whether to be pleased or upset, so just responded with, "Thanks," and a smile. "Well, I best get started," Jenny said. "You should strip to the waist so I can get a look at what I'm dealing with. I'll get my stuff set up here on the table." Jack reluctantly unbuttoned his blouse, removed it, and stood there for a bit. Jenny looked up and said, "Bra too, honey? I can't make a form with it on." After he removed his bra, she checked him out and held up some color swatches to match his skin color, then said, "Great. We can leave the forms on. Mom did a great job. You can go to the bedroom while I mix up a few things here. Spread this plastic sheet on the bed and lay down. No pillow. I'll be right there." Jack nodded and she handed him a large plastic sheet. Jack grabbed his clothes and the sheet and went into the bedroom to wait. Jenny was soon there with a large pail. She rubbed something all over his chest she called a release agent and started to put plaster in a thick layer all over his chest and up over his shoulders and the front of his neck. She then laid a layer of what looked like a gauze cloth on it and started in again with the plaster-type stuff. When she finished, Jack had over an inch of the stuff on his chest. "This won't take long. It sets up hard as a rock in about 10 minutes. Then I'll lift it off and you can clean up and get dressed. I'll use this as a form to make your chest appliance that I'll put on you on Halloween. No one will ever know it's not all you," she said, smiling. After Jenny left, Jack was cleaning up when Sandy came in and said, "I laid out some clothes on the bed for you to put on when you get finished there." "A different outfit?" "What for?" he asked. "We're going out to dinner." "Do we have to?" "I don't really feel all that comfortable going out like this." "My point exactly. You need to get comfortable before the party, so get dressed. And if you're a good girl, I'll let you take me to a movie too." When Jack glanced at the bed, he saw a black dress and it didn't look to him like there was very much to it. "Isn't that a little bit Well, it doesn't look big enough. I mean, like there's not much to it. Every girl need an LBD, dear. A little black dress. And this is yours. Can you believe I found it in Goodwill and it still had the sales tags on it?" It's brand new and in your size for only $6. Okay. That's it. I know I promised and said I would go along with your crazy scheme, but that didn't include a little black dress. I'll go out tonight, but in a normal skirt and blouse. Okay? At least try it on. You'll see it's a very modest LBD. The hem is only a few inches above your knees and the top has cap sleeves and shows very little cleavage. It's quite modest and proper for a night out to dinner. Please? All right. I'll put it on, but I'm not going out, Jack said as he removed what he had on and started to get dressed. He put on the black lace-trimmed panties over his padded brief and then rolled the sheer black stockings up his legs. Sandy helped him with the garter belt and to attach the tabs to the stockings. Then he put on the waist cincher and she tightened the laces. Then came the black lacy bra that matched his panties, and then he let Sandy help him into the dress. She zipped it up the back and handed him a pair of patent leather stilettos with a 4-inch heels and ankle straps. Here. Put these on and then we'll do your hair and makeup. After Jack put the shoes on, he sat at the vanity. Sandy draped a cape over his shoulders and pulled his hair back. She removed his makeup and then started to reapply a much more dramatic look with darkest shadow, heavy mascara, and full red lips. Then she did his hair in a semi-updo with strands strategically left loose and hanging down that she used her curling iron on. A pendant necklace, dangling earrings, a bracelet and several rings, and he was finished. All right, honey. Stand up and take a look in the mirror. Jack walked a bit unsteadily in the new heels but made it to the mirrored closet doors and stared at himself. He turned from side to side and smoothed the skirt of his dress. He played with the curled strands of hair and checked out the exposed portion of his breasts. Damn! This is amazing, and scary as hell. Why scary? I think you look wonderful. Very pretty. That dress shows off your figure and legs beautifully. That's it. That's exactly what's scary. God, Sandy, I look in the mirror and I can't tell that I'm not a woman. With the other clothes, they covered enough that it never really, well, I never really looked so totally. Like a beautiful woman? Sandy finished for him. That's what I wanted you to see, dear. You have no need to worry about going out, and you can see that the dress does not overexpose you and the skirt is flirty but plenty long enough for modesty. I dressed while Jenny was working on you, so grab the clutch purse on the bed and we'll get going. I made reservations. It was at that point that Jack first noticed that Sandy was dressed similarly and was looking totally hot. He was defeated and outmaneuvered again, so he silently picked up the purse and followed her to the front door, but when they reached the living room he was shocked when a group of voices all shouted out, "Surprise!" It was their neighbors, Todd, Louise, Bill and Mary. Jack was dumbstruck. Bill was the first to speak. Looking at Sandy he said, "Is that Jack, or did we just blow the surprise? 'Cause if it is Jack, he just lost the bet big time." "Oh, it's Jack all right. Or maybe Jackie until Halloween. Depending on your votes," Sandy answered with a smile. "Damn, dude. You look so hot." "I'm afraid you just lost my vote," Todd said. Bill spoke up again. "Hell yeah. Shit, man, I came here to vote for you, but there's no way I could get away with it. You're one hot piece of..." "Enough, Bill." Mary cut him off. "Watch your mouth. There's 4 ladies present and we don't need to hear your foul language." She turned to Jack, Sandy and Louise. "Sorry girls, and especially you Jackie, but you know Bill's mouth." Jack knew Sandy had set him up with the makeup, hairstyle and especially the dress and heels. He knew he had lost any chance of getting out of wearing the old dress to the party, so he gave up gracefully. He smiled and said, "I guess I'm going to the Halloween party in a dress." "Damn. You even sound like a chick," Todd said, and everyone laughed. They all talked for a while and then Sandy announced that they had reservations. "We'll be late if we don't get going. See you all there." "Everyone's going?" Jack asked, surprised. "Yep. It's Jackie's birthday," Sandy answered. "Oh well. They say misery loves company." "Let's go," Jack said, smiling. They put on their coats. Jack remembered to remove his hair from under the collar and check himself in the mirror. He just shook his head and followed Sandy out to the car. He found that the 4-inch heels weren't all that bad after wearing the 3-inch ones the last 3 days. They had a pleasant evening for the most part. Jack did feel a bit uncomfortable with his buddies and some of the guys in the restaurant giving him the once-over, but reasoned that in their shoes, he would be doing the same thing. He decided that this was just something that women learn to live with, and he thought, and what the hell, as long as they are leering and not yelling about a man in a dress, I guess I look pretty good. It was a definite boost to his confidence, if not his male ego, which was Sandy's plan all along. She knew that if all went well and she could make him feel comfortable, it would make her plans for Halloween work out perfectly. After dinner, their friends left for home and Sandy and Jack went to the movie, which was anticlimactic after everything else that happened. Sandy was very pleased when Mary and Louise had confided in her that Jack was amazing and that his voice and mannerisms were almost perfect. So, after the surprise party and their night out, it was very little problem for Sandy to get Jack to go out shopping at several outlet malls and stores on Sunday and during the rest of the week. She even convinced him to do the grocery shopping and do a few errands like picking up the dress at the cleaners. It all provided more training and she was sure he would do great on Halloween. On Saturday he went to an appointment at the salon and Janice touched up his hair, nails and another waxing, just to be sure, and more beard removal cream. She generally checked him out completely, make sure he was ready for Monday night. Sandy took Monday off to prepare and to be there when Jenny showed up to do the final fitting of his appliance for the party that night. The house was a whirl with activity. The dress and all accessories were brought out. Jack took a long hot bubble bath with sweet-smelling bath salts and Sandy powdered him with similarly scented talc and had him put on his padded panty briefs, robe, and mules. He was declared ready just as Jenny rang the doorbell. They went to the bedroom where Jenny once again laid out the plastic sheet on the bed and had Jack remove his robe and lay down. She removed the forms and cleaned his chest, sides and back with alcohol wipes and then laid the appliance on his chest. She carefully marked the boundary and then removed it and applied an adhesive. After a few minutes it dried and she had him roll over and marked his back and applied more adhesive. She explained that the appliance already had adhesive on it as she pulled a thin plastic sheet from the back. Then carefully, starting at the marks on his side, she worked her way across his hips over his waist, up his chest and over his shoulders and then around his neck. Jenny then had him roll over and worked across his back at his waist and up to mid-back. After that she pushed and poked all over until she was satisfied and then worked the edges. After sealing the seams and blending in the edges with makeup, she declared him finished and had him sit up. As Jack sat on the edge of the bed, he glanced in the mirrors and was shocked once again. The forms had looked okay, but this was unreal. The skin tone was a perfect match and the breasts looked totally real. As he sat there, he began to feel a tightening sensation around his waist. It was like the waist cincher crushing his middle. He put his hands to his sides and looked up at Jenny questioningly. "Getting a bit tighter?" she asked, grinning. "No shit. It feels like that damn waist cincher," Jack complained. "It's sort of like shrink wrap but built into the form. It responds to your body heat and I calculated it for a 24-inch waist. That's what Sandy told me your cinched dimension was. She said that you hated the cincher and were dreading having to put you in a corset for tonight, so I told her about this option. It really will be more comfortable because the pressure is more evenly applied. After a bit you'll hardly notice it, Jenny explained with a big smile. Okay. I can handle it for tonight. How do we get this off later? Jack asked. Oh, well, about that, Jenny said hesitantly. You don't. It has to be removed by a professional, which wasn't going to be a problem until a little while ago. I have to leave for a location shoot for 2 weeks. As soon as I finish up here I head to the airport and fly to Atlanta. But you'll be my first stop when I get back. 2 weeks! I have to live in this thing for 2 weeks? Jack yelled. Calm down, Jack, Sandy cut in. You've already spent almost 2 weeks with those forms and cincher, so it shouldn't be a major problem. It's not Jenny's fault. We can handle it. Jack looked at the distraught face of Jenny and the cute crooked smile on Sandy's face and gave up. It was done. Too late to back out now. Fine. Now what? Jenny spoke up first. I do your makeup and hair, then we get you into that dress. I just have to see what you look like. 2 hours later, after his hair was piled on top of his head in a very fashionable Victorian style and the appropriate makeup applied, he was dressed in bra, stockings and garter belt, slips, petticoats and shoes. Then the dress was put on and buttoned up the back, the old necklace placed around his neck, several of the old rings placed on his fingers, and the large dangling chandelier earrings hung in his ears. The last touches were a spray of floral perfume, and Sandy handed him a small clutch purse that matched his dress. Sandy and Jenny stood back and admired their handiwork. Damn! She looks unbelievable, just like she stepped out of the late 19th century, Jenny enthused. Far better than anything I've ever seen on a period movie set. Oh wow, honey. You look so fantastic. Turn around and take a look, Sandy added. But unseen by Jack and Jenny, there was a look of concern that passed over Sandy's face. She was having second thoughts about her plans. Jack looked just too real. Jack turned slowly, half afraid of what he was going to see. What he didn't see was himself. Not one bit. Nothing. Well, it's done. Are you pleased with the results? He asked with a famine wave of his hand indicating his total appearance. Completely, honey. You'll be the belle of the ball tonight. Now you go practice walking and moving in that dress while I get dressed. Concentrate on dealing with the train. I'll give you some quick pointers before I have to leave, Jenny volunteered. Jack received instruction on how to walk, turn and change direction with the train of the dress, and then Jenny showed him how to take up the loop on the dress on his wrist to hold the train up while dancing or just walking about. He was getting the hang of it when Sandy reappeared dressed in a floor-length formal evening gown and made up perfectly as a very high-class call girl. She was stunning. Jack was impressed. I wish I was in a tux instead of this dress, he remarked. Jenny told her she looked fantastic and then said, well guys, it's been fun but I gotta get going. I'll leave my stuff here and pick it up when I get back and release you from your girl prison, Jack. See ya. And she was gone. A few minutes later there was a knock on the door and Sandy answered it. Your car is here, ma'am, stated the uniformed chauffeur. We have a limo? Yep, Sandy answered smiling. I figured that the way we are dressed, neither of us can drive very well, so why not go first class all the way? So, to the car and away to the ball, Cinderella. Chapter 5. The limo pulled up to the country club and the driver got out and opened the door for Sandy and Jack. He gathered up the train of his dress so it wouldn't drag on the ground and elegantly walked next to Sandy into the clubhouse where Sandy was greeted by many of her friends from the company and their spouses. Jack was a little taken aback as Sandy introduced him as her sister-in-law, Jackie. After they were in the ballroom, Jack whispered, "Sister-in-law? Jackie? What the hell, Sandy? Well, I can't very well introduce you as my husband, Jack, now, can I?" "Why the hell not? It's a costume party." "This is a costume." "You're right, of course, but there's one problem. We did too good of a job. I can't even believe you're not a woman. I just thought it best if you be Jackie tonight. This is not how I planned things to go tonight." "Planned? There was more to this than just going to the party?" "Like what?" "Not now, honey. I'll explain later. Let's just find our table and order a drink and then mix in." "Okay, but I think you got some explaining to do later," he said, doing his Ricky Ricardo imitation. They found their places and Sandy ordered 2 glasses of white wine. "Wine?" Jack questioned. "I need something considerably stronger, like a double shot of single malt scotch straight up." "Not tonight, dear. You're a refined Victorian lady tonight. Or at least a lady, so please act like one. For me. Okay?" "Okay, but you have me so confused." "I have no idea what's going on," Jack said, shaking his head. "I know, dear. Just go with the flow, please?" Sandy pleaded with a strained smile. And that's just what Jack did to the best of his ability. He called upon all of his learning from the CDs and tried his best to move with feminine grace and charm all during the dinner. He responded politely to the questions posed by the others at their table and made up a background based on his own life and experience. He figured that it was easier to remember a lie if it was mostly truth. After dinner they were milling around and Jack said, "I thought this was a Halloween party for fun and games. It seems like everyone's talking business. Not like last year." Sandy smiled and said, "If you remember, dear, last year you spent the night in the bar watching a game on the TV. You didn't mingle very much." "Oh yeah. I forgot. You were off with a bunch of other people and I got bored." Well, one of the main reasons everyone comes to these affairs is to mingle and network with others in the company and our customers and suppliers on a less formal and more casual basis. That's the way big business. Just then Sandy's boss came up and asked her to come with him to explain a few things to one of their suppliers, so Jack was left on his own. But not for very long. An older man came up dressed like a Shakespearean player from Hamlet and introduced himself. "Hi. My name is Jim. You're Jackie? Sandra's sister-in-law?" he asked, smiling. "Yes, I am," Jack responded as he took Jim's outstretched hand, remembering to keep his grip light and gentle. "Fantastic. Bob Smith told me about you. He was at your table and you spoke to him." "Yes. I did," Jack responded, wondering where this was going. "Great. Can we find a quieter place to talk? I have a few things I want to ask you about your business." "How about the lounge? It's less hectic in there." "Fine by me," Jack responded. "Sandy's off somewhere with her booze and I'm at loose ends." He smiled. They walked to the lounge and found a table. Jim ordered drinks. Jack stuck with the white wine, remembering what Sandy said. Jim started the conversation by telling Jack all about their national and international distribution systems and how they worked, and then asking if his company handled things like that. Jack said he did, and then the conversation got very specific and detailed. Jack made many suggestions based on what Jim asked him about different systems. It was over an hour later when Sandy found them deep in conversation. She was somewhat shocked to find Jack in a serious talk with J.D. Myers, the CEO and owner of the company she worked for. She casually walked up to their table and said, "Hi. What are you two talking about so seriously?" Jim got up and said, "Sandra, I was just talking to Jackie about our distribution system. You never told me that your sister-in-law was an efficiency engineer and computer guru. She has given me some excellent suggestions on how to upgrade and reorganize our systems. Well, I've taken way too much of her time, so I'll let you both have some fun. I'll see you again, Jackie," and he walked off, leaving Jack and a very startled Sandy alone. "Oh my God! How long have you been talking to J.D.? What did you talk about?" Sandy asked. Jack just looked at her and said, "J.D. As in J.D. Myers, the CEO and owner of J.D. Myers International Incorporated? He just said his name was Jim. We just talked about business. I mentioned a few things that might improve efficiency and up output of what I thought was another business. He never told me the name of his business. We didn't talk about anything major. Just the usual stuff." "Yes. J.D., the owner of the company. He sure looked impressed, and he never looks impressed. Probably just that my striking beauty had him mesmerized," Jack joked. "Yeah, right. I need a serious drink." The rest of the night went pretty much quietly. Sandy networked with several people and Jack was asked to dance a few times, which was a new experience for him, but no more major events took place. They finished the night with Jack taking second place in the costume contest and then headed to their limo for the ride home. They were both totally worn out and couldn't wait to get to bed. Sandy helped Jack out of his dress and he cleaned off his makeup and took down his hair. Then he put on his nightgown and crawled into bed. Sandy gave him a kiss goodnight and they both fell asleep. The next morning, Tuesday, Sandy was up, dressed and gone to work, leaving Jack to sleep in. He had consumed considerably more wine than she had. When he finally rolled out of bed about 11 o'clock, he padded to the bathroom for his morning ritual. When he looked in the mirror, he remarked to his reflection, "Damn girl. You look like shit." Shit. What am I saying? Now Sandy's got me calling myself girl. This can't end soon enough for me. Then he took a long hard look at his reflection standing there in his nightgown with disheveled hair and no makeup and thought, I do still look completely like a girl. Even like this. And shook his head and removed the nightgown, panties, and padded brief and then hopped into the shower. He felt 1,000 times better after his shower. Standing in the bedroom, he announced to no one, "Today it's over. I wear my own clothes." But that didn't work out as planned. His waist was too small for his pants and his shirt was too small to button over his boobs. All he was left with were the clothes Sandy had bought him, and there wasn't a pair of slacks in the lot, so he was forced to abandon his escape plans and selected a skirt and blouse to wear. He put them on and slipped into a pair of his shoes and went to the kitchen for some coffee and something to eat. By the time he finished, he realized that his freedom from a bra was not such a good idea. The boobs seemed to have a mind of their own and moved in directions he was not headed, so he returned to the bedroom. One passing glance in the mirror stopped him cold. "God, I look like shit," he said to the reflection. His hair was a tangled wet mess, braless, and the blouse looked horrible. Then there was his work shoes with the skirt, no hips and no makeup. He looked awful and it bothered him at some level that he was not familiar with. Forget it! What the hell am I thinking? Jack said as he removed his blouse, put on the bra and was about to put the blouse back on when he thought, if I don't do something with this hair I'll regret it, so he sat at Sandy's vanity and brushed and combed it out and then blow-dried it. When he finished he fluffed it a bit and thought it looked a lot better, but his face was so drab. I've gotten so used to makeup that I don't look good without at least a little. Maybe just a touch for old time's sake, he thought. By the time he finished, he had light foundation, blush, lipstick, mascara and light eyeshadow with a bit of eyeliner. He had also put 2 studs in the upper holes of his ears and 1-inch gold hoops in the lower ones. He looked at his reflection in the mirror and felt a lot better, which made him shake his head and throw up his hands. I give up. I guess as long as I have these boobs, I'm stuck looking like this. Why does it bother me? I never cared that much about how I looked. He got up and took off the skirt and put on the padded brief and a pair of panties over it and then put on his blouse and skirt. He slipped on some pads and slid his feet into the pumps with the 2-inch heels. Looking once again in the mirror and fluffing out his hair, he felt a warm glow of satisfaction, and the thought, "That's much better," went through his mind. It worried him, a little. He worked in his office and prepared dinner during the rest of the afternoon until he heard Sandy's car door close. He got up and met her at the door. When she saw him, she had a surprised look on her face. I never expected to see you looking like this again. Why? Long story, and I'm not even sure I can tell it. I had the strangest morning ever. You can try your best over dinner. As they ate, Jack recounted his day. Especially the morning. I just really don't understand it. When my clothes didn't fit right, it didn't bother me all that much to wear these clothes. What bothered the hell out of me was not looking good in them. I just had to do my hair and makeup and put on the brief and a bra. I couldn't stand the way I looked without it all. Even the shoes, and I don't like heels. I can pick you up a cute pair of flats tomorrow, Sandy offered. I don't care about the shoes. I'm more worried about why I felt the need to look good and went to all the bother. Why did I care? But some flats would be nice. Well, this all may be the least of our problems, dear. Something happened at work this afternoon and it concerns you. What could happen at your work to concern me? Did I screw up last night? You didn't get fired, did you? Oh heavens no. But you may have been hired. Jack stared at her questioningly. J.D. had meetings all morning with IT, the ordering and shipping heads and a bunch of others. They even had teleconferences with other locations. I was called in late this afternoon and told that he had set up meetings for Wednesday, that's tomorrow, and to be sure I brought Jackie in with me in the morning. He wants to talk to you about working for him. Oh wow. That's fantastic. A contract with J.D. Myers Incorporated could be worth a fortune. I'll go to my office and get my presentation materials ready for the meeting morn. Oh shit. I can't go. Not for another 2 weeks. Can you delay the meeting? Say I'm out of town. You didn't listen to me. The meeting isn't with Jack. It's with Jackie, my sister-in-law. And when JD sets up a meeting, it does not get postponed. But I can't. Not like this. No. Of course not. That's why I stopped off on the way home and bought you a professional-looking skirt suit and accessories. That's not funny. I'm being serious. Jackie doesn't exist. How can she go to a meeting and negotiate a contract and sign it? Even if I was willing to go as Jackie. I thought the same thing at first. Then it occurred to me that you could use your whole name. I know you hate your middle name, but think about it. If you just slide them together, it's still your legal name but doesn't cause anyone to look twice. You can just sign it Jacqueline Lambert instead of Jack L. Lambert like you usually do. That way you have the meeting, get the contract, and no one the wiser. And what happens if we have to have more meetings in a month or 6 months? I can't keep popping in and out of skirts. If I'm lucky, I could wind up renewing with them for years. I thought about that. You partner with your sister in name only. She actually lives in Oregon, so she can't be popping in here all the time, so you will handle all the business here. That way the company will be dealing with you from now on. For once your folks' cutesy names for you and your sister will work to your advantage. Jacqueline Lambert and Jacqueline Lambert. So, I make my sister a partner in name only. She's West Coast and I'm East Coast. She negotiates the contract and goes home and we never see her again. That's damn convoluted, but it could work. But forgive me if I still worry. Every time I scheme I seem to get burnt, which is why I don't lie. I always get screwed. I'm sorry, Jack. My plan was for you to meet some people and make some connections to maybe help your business. I never thought you'd wind up meeting and talking to J.D. for hours. I also didn't think that Jackie had impressed him so much that he would insist that she was the only one he wanted to talk to and threaten my job if she didn't at least come in for a talk and interview. You, or rather Jackie, sold herself and her business too well. Chapter 6 Wednesday morning, Sandy helped Jack dress in a smart dark charcoal gray skirt suit with matching 3-inch heels and a new leather purse. With appropriate daytime makeup and his hair styled in a professional but attractive style, they left for the office. On the way, Sandy gave Jack pointers for dealing with J.D. Be very careful, Jack. He's sharp and could talk the devil out of his pitchfork. Don't agree to or sign anything without reading every word. Especially the back part after he financial compensation. That's where he hides all his singers, as he calls them. Better yet, tell him you need your lawyer to review it. He's honest but devious and likes to get his way. Don't worry, honey. I've made a lot of contracts. I know what I'm doing. Jack. Listen to me. Be careful dealing with him. He's a self-made billionaire. He's sharp, quick, and has taken some of the best in his time. I'm warning you. He can be a real bastard. That's why everyone in the office respects but fears him. Gotcha. Be careful. Don't worry. I can handle it. He was very nice last night. Oh God, Jack. You're not listening. I am. Every word. Sandy just shook her head as she parked the car in her reserved spot. She hoped for the best, but Jack was on his own. A child playing with a shark. In the office, she left Jack with J.D.'s receptionist and went to her office to worry. Jack was shown into the main office where Jim greeted him and had Jack follow to a conference room filled with senior executives. After introductions, Jack was briefed in turn by each person in the room with detailed information about their part of the operation. Then Jack gave his presentation. He did his best to incorporate all he had heard and explain how he could increase efficiency and their bottom line. Then the cross-examination began. Jack was questioned and challenged and pretty well raked over the coals, but he felt he made his points and came out on top. They broke for lunch and Jim took Jack out to lunch at a very nice restaurant. He told Jack that it had been decided to put him under contract, which surprised Jack, and he mentioned to Jim that he hadn't heard any decision being made. Jim laughed and said, "Once you start working for me, you'll understand. The board talks and I decide." That's how I work. Your contract is being prepared right now and we can discuss it and sign when we get back. Back at the office, they talked for a bit and then Jim's PA brought in the contract. Jack was given a copy and a pen. There you go, Jackie. I'm sure you'll like all of the provisions. I directed them all myself and had legal draw it up. All we need is your signature. This was moving awfully fast and Jack recalled Sandy's warnings. He asked for time to read it over. Of course. No problem. You can have the small conference room. Take half an hour or even an hour to be sure you like it. I'll be here when you're done. Jack was shown to the small adjacent room and made comfortable at the table with a cup of coffee and some paper and pens. He carefully read every word. At least every word of the main part. The contract was between Lambert Engineering, Jacqueline Lambert Principal and J.D. Myers International for 6 months as a trial for $125,000 renewable at J.D. Myers' option for another 6 months at the same rate. After that, the contract was renewable at J.D. Myers' option for up to 5 years in 1-year increments at $275,000 the first year, increasing by 10% each year following. Additional business expenses to be billed at the end of each quarter. Jack was blown away. The contract was far more than he would have ever asked for. After seeing the number, his mind was numb and he just scanned the rest. Sandy's warnings were forgotten. After 45 minutes, he returned to Jim's office and, in the presence of a notary, signed all the copies of the contract using Jacqueline Lambert as Sandy suggested. Lambert Engineering now had its best contract ever. He couldn't wait to tell Sandy. That was to happen sooner than Jack expected. Jim picked up the phone and said, "Sandra, please come to my office." Moments later, Sandy showed up and Jim told her, "Congratulations are in order. Jackie is now our newest contract employee. Follow me and I'll show you her new office." Jack and Sandy were both numb as they followed behind Jim, with Andy giving Jack questioning looks. He led them to an office and showed them the nameplate, Jacqueline Lambert, production engineer, on the door. "This is your new office and Joyce here is your PA. She'll get you whatever you need. I'll leave you now to look it over, get comfortable and celebrate." Jack and Sandy went into the office and Sandy closed the door. "Jack, what have you done? Did you read the contract? Didn't you hear me this morning? Let me see the contract." Jack handed it to her and she started flipping through the pages. "Wow. He must like you. The pay and perks are great." She kept flipping pages. "Aha. Just as I warned you. Here it is. You have 30 days to clear up any current contract, after which you will be under exclusive contract with J.D. Myers. You will be required to use an office provided in the corporate headquarters building. Then there's your sick leave, medical plan, vacation time, required travel, and so on. Jack, you're screwed. I'll just go tell him I changed my mind. I haven't read the penalties yet, but it usually includes a 5-year prohibition from practicing in or being employed in your chosen field. You'll have to give up your business and find a different line of work. Like I said, Jack, you're screwed. Why can't you ever listen to me? If you remember, dear, it was listening to you that got me into this mess in the first place. But let's be positive. What do we do now? We go home, read the contract word by word, and then call our lawyer and have him read and advise us. You don't have to start work until next month. That gives us time to find an out, but don't hold your breath. I think we'll be shopping for more office-appropriate clothes for you. Jack and Sandy went home and spent the rest of the day and night going over the contract and found no way out short of destroying his business and career. First thing Thursday morning, he contacted Bob Ward, his lawyer, who sent a courier for the contract after chewing Jack out for signing it without his advice. "Damn, Jack! Why the hell do you have me on retainer if you're not going to use me? Well, I can tell you one thing without even reading it. If it's with J.D. Meyer, you better suck it up and fulfill the contract. I've never heard of anyone beating him, but I'll look at it." Jack got the call late Thursday afternoon. "Jack. It's me. Your favorite lawyer. Bob Ward. Sorry, but no good news here. Sandy was right. You're screwed. You are under exclusive contract to J.D. Myers, and the only way out that I see is to do a lousy job so he doesn't activate the additional options of the contract. The only anomaly that I noticed was your name and signature. They have it as Jacqueline, all one name, and you signed it that way. Is there a reason for that? Not that it will get you out, just curious." Jack thought about the question for a while and decided that he might as well explain. He related the entire convoluted story from the antique trunk to the Halloween party. When he finished, he waited for the laughter to stop. "My God, Jack. As a lawyer, I have seen and heard a lot, but you've topped them all. So you're sitting there talking to me dressed and looking like a woman?" "Yeah. Unfortunately." "Well, that all explains your voice. I thought you sounded strange. At first I wasn't sure I was talking to you. Anyway, there's really nothing that I can do except advise you to fulfill your contract. If you don't, J.D. Myers will destroy you professionally. He's done it to others. You don't have to, Jack, but do me a favor. Please keep me informed on this. I can't help you, but I just have to know how it plays out." Jack and Sandy talked about the contract and what their options were. Jack decided that he just could not do a bad job to avoid JD exercising the options. "I can't, in good conscience, do that. Plus it would damage my business reputation. I've decided that I'll call JD tomorrow and ask for an appointment and then go tell him everything. I can still fulfill the contract, but as myself, not Jackie. The truth is always the best option." Sandy wasn't sure but agreed. Jack went to his office and she made a phone call. A little later she went to Jack in his office. "I called Wendy. She schedules JD's appointments. You have an appointment at 8 tomorrow." It was strange, but it almost seemed like she expected a call. "Anyway, you can go in with me tomorrow." The next morning, Friday, Jack dressed in the same skirt suit as he wore to the interview. With the appliance still attached, he didn't have an option. Sandy left him at JD's office where he waited to be called. Shortly, Wendy called him and showed him into JD's office. "Jackie. Nice to see you again. I've been expecting you. Please have a seat," he said, indicating a comfortable-looking leather-upholstered chair. Jack wondered why he'd been expected but said, "Thanks, Jim. Sorry to bother you, but I really need to talk to you about myself and the contract." "Yes. I imagine so, but let me talk first," he said as he sat down behind his large mahogany desk. "I didn't get where I am without knowing people and what I'm doing. I know the people I deal with and that I hire and contract with because I check them out thoroughly. Do you understand, Jack? You know? Of course. And you still contracted with me? Why wouldn't I? Your professional abilities and reputation are impeccable. If they weren't, you wouldn't have contract with us. I've been looking for an efficiency engineering firm for some time and yours was on the short list. I was very impressed with your reputation, especially for a one-man operation competing with and bettering the big boys. A man after my own heart. I was even more interested when I found out that you were local and further that you were Sandra's husband. I really wanted to meet you and knew the Halloween party would provide an opportunity to do that informally. And that brings us to Monday night. Jack was shocked again. Not only did Jim know, but he also knew about him before they met Halloween night. I was looking for you so I could engage you in casual conversation but couldn't find you. I checked the seating chart and found J. Lambert and S. Lambert. You were seated with Bob and his wife. I asked Bob to point out Jack Lambert from his table. He asked if I meant Jackie Lambert and pointed you out. I was confused, so I observed you for a while. You're a natural, but there were some tells in the way you walked and moved. Good, but at the very least, tomboyish. Then the way you held your glass and drank your wine. You wrapped your fingers around the stem of the glass and drank it like a beer rather than lightly with your fingertips and sipping it. I was almost certain that the charming lady in that gown was actually you, Jack Lambert. Are you following me, Jack? Yes, Jack answered timidly. I'm sorry I deceived you / but you didn't, Jack. You impressed me. You impressed me more during our conversation and I had pretty much decided to put you under contract. Tuesday morning I sent my hound dogs out. They talked to your neighbors, which led them to Janice, a salon owner, which in turn led to her daughter. The conversation with her let me know you were somewhat stuck as you are for several weeks, which really pleased me, and that is why I pretty much forced you to come in on Wednesday. I wanted you looking as you are now. You really impressed me and the board with your presentation and the way you held up under their cross-examination. You were close to perfect. Thanks. I think, Jack said quietly. He was blown away by Jim's monologue. He knew just about everything. Now let's get to what I imagine you want to talk about. The contract and your current situation. You either want out of the contract, which isn't going to happen, or you want to get back to being Jack before you start work. Which also isn't going to happen. But Jim cut him off by holding up his hand. Hang on, Jack. Let me finish. I made the contract very lucrative for several reasons. 1, I wanted you to sign it as Jacqueline, and because I needed you as Jacqueline, not Jack. I like to hire a man to do a man's job. That's what I have always done, and I believe that this is a man's job. But my habits have caused serious complaints from many quarters. Complaints that can cause me great difficulties. But if I hire you, I get multiple benefits. I've hired a woman but gotten a man. An apparent transvestite or maybe a transsexual woman that has represented herself as a woman on legal documents. I need you for more than what I hired you for, and I'm paying you for it. So Jack, you will work for me and you will do it as you are, a woman named Jacqueline. Now do you understand exactly where you stand, or sit? Jack sat up straight and pulled his shoulders back. You've got me coming and going, Jim. I had every intention to honor my contract, and I will. I won't like it, but I will do it to the best of my ability. Sandy said you were a real bastard, and now I believe it. But let me say this. You got me this time, but don't ever expect to get me again. I don't get had twice. J.D. laughed out loud. I accept the challenge, Jackie. And I look forward to having you work for me. I also hope that it can be a beneficial and non-adversarial working relationship. In that light, is there anything I can do to make it better for you? Yes. You explain to Sandy what you're doing to her husband and why she's going to be living with a crossdresser or whatever the hell I am. And how about a clothing allowance? You have no idea what women's clothes cost. Will do. And I do know the cost. I'm married to a very fashion-conscious lady. Anything else? Not that I can think of right now unless you want to tell me this is all a joke and let me off the hook. No chance. And Jackie, everyone calls me J.D., but I like you calling me Jim. It seems more friendly and I hope to eventually be very good friends. Now, I noticed that you arrived with Sandra, so I'll have the company limo take you home if you want. Just let Wendy know when you're ready. I'm ready now. I have to work up to facing Sandy. J.D. laughed again, they shook hands and Jack left for home. Chapter 7. Jack arrived home and just wanted to relax and forget his entire morning. He undressed and rummaged through his closet for something that would fit his altered figure. He wanted pants. He stood in just a bra and panties, frustrated. Nothing fit. He glanced over at Sandy's closet and finally tried on several pairs of slacks, and although they fit fine in the hips and just a bit large in the waist, they were about 4 inches too short. Then he spotted a pair of brand new jeans and remembered Sandy saying she accidentally bought a tall size and couldn't wear them. He grabbed them and tried them on. Perfect. He continued his search and pulled out a man-tailored long-sleeved plaid cotton blouse. It fit fine, but the sleeves were a bit short, so he rolled them up halfway to his elbow. It worked and looked good. Casual. He slipped on a pair of his ankle socks and his white sneakers and checked his reflection in the mirror. Well, I certainly don't look anything like the man I was, but at least I'm not in a skirt. Then moving over to Sandy's vanity, he sat down and looked through her scrunchies. Without consciously thinking about it, he selected one that went with the blouse and pulled and brushed his hair into a high ponytail. Then he removed all of his makeup. Jack was about to go to his office when a last glance in the mirror made him stop. He felt uncomfortable with his reflection. He didn't like what he saw. His face wasn't right. After weeks of cleansing and moisturizing and the neatly trimmed, plucked, and arched eyebrows, it just didn't look right without at least some makeup. What the hell's the matter with me? I think I've been brainwashed. I never wore makeup in my life and now it bothers me when I'm not wearing it, he grumbled to himself. Oh, what the hell? Why not? It's going to be my life until I get out of that damn contract. So Jack used a bit of mascara, a touch of eyeshadow and some light lipstick and felt better about his look. He got up and checked himself out in the large mirror and thought, cute. Shit. I look cute dressed like this. Oh, what the hell? I have work to do. I can't be screwing around with this shit. He went to his office and started laying out what he needed to do to close out his contracts by the end of November. Jack was soon lost in his work and didn't hear Sandy's car or the front door when she came home that evening. He was standing at his printer making copies when she stopped in the doorway and said, "My, don't you look cute? Those jeans fit you perfectly and look great." Jack was startled and turned his head quickly to see her standing there smiling. His ponytail swung back and forth behind him. Damn, Sandy. You scared the hell out of me. Sandy looked at him standing there with his hand on his chest, patting himself, and thought, he really is picking up a lot of feminine mannerisms. I'm sorry, honey. But seriously, you look great. Love the way your ponytail swishes and swings when you turn your head. Sexy. You're not bothered that you think your husband looks cute dressed in you clothes? Or has a sexy ponytail? I figured that you'd come home all upset and pissed at me after talking to Jim. He did talk to you, didn't he? Yes. And I am upset, but with him, the bastard, not with you. I can't believe he knowingly screwed you over just to make his life easier. If I ever get a chance to. Whoa there. I've done a lot of thinking since our meeting and I agree, he's a bastard, but I'm at least partly to blame for the fix I'm in. I ignored the advice of my lawyer and the warnings from my wife and generally did a damn foolish thing when I signed that contract. I was blinded by the money. I accept that, and I accept that I am pretty much stuck like this for a while. What scares the hell out of me is what you think. Can you live with a husband that isn't the man you married but a shit? I don't know what I am, but I know I'm not much of a man, and I'm scared shitless that you'll leave me. Leave you? Why the hell would I leave you, Jack? I love you. With all my heart and soul, I love you. If you had an accident and were horribly scared and deformed, I would still love you. I didn't fall in love with your looks. I fell in love with you. And as for blame, there's plenty to go around. Whose harebrained idea was it to put you in a dress? Who took you to a salon and had your hair and nails done and your legs waxed and your ears pierced and eyebrows plucked? Who was it that spent 2 weeks training you to look, act, and sound like a woman? Me, Jack. It was all me. You look like you do because I did it to you. So don't play the martyr and take all the blame. No, Jack, you're stuck with me. And your mascara is running down your cheeks. Jack and Sandy did a lot of shopping for clothes that fit him. They bought a complete wardrobe of professional attire and accessories for work, but what interested Jack most was slacks, jeans, and comfortable tops and blouses and a number of pairs of flats and sandals. Sandy also insisted on a selection of nightwear. They rounded out his collection of cosmetics, jewelry, and things for different hairstyles along with perfume, soaps, shampoos, and conditioners. They also made room for a larger vanity that would accommodate both of them. When Jenny returned from Atlanta, she called and set up a time to remove Jack's appliance. When she arrived, she asked Jack how the Halloween party went. And he and Sandy gave her all the details, including the aftermath. You mean you're stuck for the next 6 months? She asked. Sandy responded with, more like 6 years if J.D. exercises all of the options. Which he probably will. Yeah. Looks like I'm stuck with those damn breast forms and the waist cincher and padded briefs. Too bad you can't whip up something I could wear for 6 years. I hate that stuff. It's a pain to deal with and damn uncomfortable, Jack complained. Jenny looked contemplative for a moment. Well, this is probably a non-starter, but there is an alternative that would work, she said as she fished around in her workbox. What's that? Jack and Sandy asked in unison. Plastic. Almost all of the Hollywood stars have it done sooner or later. And most of what they do, they can undo later if you want. Here is the card of a local doctor. She's one of the best, and a lot of the actors use her. Plastic surgery? No way. Not happening, Jack quickly responded. It was just a thought, Jenny said as she handed the card to Sandy. It's a lot more comfortable than all that other stuff. After a few weeks it feels completely normal and natural. I was flat as a board 5 years ago and then I went to her. Anyway, it's just a suggestion to keep in mind if you get tired of the discomfort and bother. Well, I got to go now. Mom's gonna give me a perm. Good luck, guys. After 2 more weeks out in the public eye shopping and going out to eat, Jack was visibly more relaxed and natural. His new wardrobe that included slacks, jeans, and flats helped a lot, but he still complained about the extras as he called them. Sandy knew it wasn't the right time to bring up Jenny's option, so she just made sympathetic noises. Besides, even she wasn't sure that was the right choice. Best to save it as a last resort. Jack started to work for Jim in December and was quickly snowed under with the vastness of his operations. Jim assigned 3 more clerical staff to assist with filing and correlating reports and information. Jack figured that it would take the first 6 months just getting to know the operation before he could start to analyze it and make recommendations. He told Sandy that he was going to have to go to the other sites across the United States to see the operations personally, and that brought up a problem: his ID. He couldn't fly as a woman named Jacqueline Lambert with an ID for Jack L. Lambert, a man. He mentioned it to Jim and was told not to worry about it. Jim put his legal department on the problem, and at the end of January, a guy from legal dropped a large envelope on Jack's desk. "Your ID problem is solved, Jackie. Check everything over to make sure it's right. I'll wait." Jack couldn't believe it. The envelope had all of his ID from birth certificate to college degree and transcripts, social security card, credit cards, passport, and even an application for a revised driver's license. Everything. And all of it in the name of Jacqueline Lambert, female. Damn, you guys are good. These all look real. They are. We had all of your records changed. Even your business license. And we did it in under 30 days. There'll be no problem with TSA now, he said with pride. J.D. was really happy. You legally changed my name and sex on all of my records? Without my permission? No. We had your consent. You signed all the papers a month ago. We gave them to your PA and she had you sign them and brought them back to us. Don't you remember? Jack just shook his head and said, I signed so much stuff. I must have forgotten. Thanks. After the guy left, he went to Sandy's office. When he walked in, he showed her their marriage certificate and said, You are now legally married to a woman named Jacqueline Lambert. Jim had legal changed my name and sex. Can you believe that? He what? Changed my name and sex. I'm a freaking woman now. Legally. Calm down, Jack. I'm sure that it can be changed back when your contract is up. It may actually be for the best. No more problems with your credit cards in the stores. You can do your traveling now without any hassles. Sorry. It was just such a shock to find out that I had a sex change and didn't even know it. I guess you better start calling me Jacqueline or Jackie like everyone else. It looks like that's who I am now. For real. See you after work. So Jack became Jackie and things settled down into a routine. He slowly made a mental shift, and over time he gained more of the mannerisms, grace, and habits of a woman. Walking in heels and feeling the brush of a skirt or dress on his legs became normal. And he no longer paid much attention to having breasts. They were just there. He also became far more conscious of his appearance and never failed to freshen his makeup or check himself in a mirror before going out. He even had a large mirror installed in his office like Sandy and most other women had in their office. His voice inflections and vocabulary also changed the more he associated with the women that worked for him and in the office, and he gestured more with his hands when talking. Jackie never really noticed any of the changes, they just slowly crept into his daily routines. But Sandy did, and so did their neighbors Mary and Louise. Bill and Todd also noticed, and it bothered them because they found themselves checking Jackie out from time to time and they knew who, or rather what he really was. As Jackie's first 6 months came to an end, it was May and spring was in full bloom. The weather was getting warmer and his complaints about the additional clothing increased with the temperature. The waist cincher and padded briefs especially caused increased sweating and gave him an irritating heat rash. The skin on his chest was becoming inflamed from the repeated attachment of the breast forms. And if he didn't attach them, he sweated and got heat rash there too. With his almost constant, and she admitted justified, bitching plus the news that J.D. was definitely exercising his option for an additional 6 months and probably the first-year option also, Sandy finally gave in and pulled out the card that Jenny had given her. She made a call and set up an appointment for Jackie. Jackie objected strenuously. He argued that he could handle the problems and that plastic surgery was not necessary, plus it scared him. He saw it as one more step closer to a point of no return for Jack, but Sandy convinced him to at least listen to what the doctor had to say, so they went. At the doctor's office, Jackie insisted that Sandy listen also so they could talk about it later, maybe. The doctor introduced herself as Dr. Cheryl Lindstrom. Now Jack, or do you prefer Jackie? Jackie's fine. I've gotten used to it. Very good. So Jackie, your wife has quite thoroughly explained your most unusual situation, and I understand exactly why you are presenting yourself as a woman. A most unenviable position you've gotten yourself into. She also explained your problems with the prosthetic devices and the cincher. A not uncommon problem, I might add. So, down to business, I need to examine you, take photos, and also get blood, stool, urine, and other samples. Is that necessary? I mean, we're just here for a consultation. Nothing has been decided. As a matter of fact, I'm against the whole idea of surgery. Jackie said. Yes. Sandy also explained that, but I believe in being thorough, and if you did decide to go further, the tests will already be done. Plus you're paying for them whether I do them or not. All part of the first visit. So what say we get to it? My nurse will take you to the exam room and have you disrobe completely. Then she'll get your blood pressure, height, weight, and other measurements along with the samples I mentioned. When she's finished, I'll be in to see you. Jackie followed the nurse, leaving the doctor and Sandy behind. He stripped down and put on the backwards hospital gown, and then she started in with his height, weight, and did all the other things the doctor had mentioned. She also measured just about every part of his body and entered all of the information into the computer. She led him to a restroom and provided him with vials for urine and semen samples and a tube of KY jelly. She told him to place the samples in a small door when he was finished and return to the exam room. Jackie was not happy but did as instructed. He didn't want to face Sandy if he refused. Besides, he'd come this far. Soon after he returned to the exam room, the doctor came in. She was very friendly and asked a lot of questions while she checked him over from head to toe and made notes. Then she took a lot of photos, mainly of his face from different sides and angles. All the while she talked and explained different procedures and what they could do for him. Some she explained were permanent, while others could be removed or undone or further modified at a future date. She went into detail about the new type of breast implant she was using. It's quite revolutionary. It's a form made of dissolvable suture thread that I fill with liposuction body fat and insert in place. Over several months, the fat binds into the proper shape and the form dissolves, leaving you with a completely natural breast of nothing but your own fatty material, much like a real breast. That way there is no possibility of rejection or future problems. I also understand from Sandy that, if you did elect to have surgery, you intend to return to your male state when your contract is completed. That's why I'm telling you which procedures are permanent and which are reversible. Some of the permanent procedures would enhance your feminine appearance but would not detract from your male appearance when you returned. Okay. That about wraps it up here. You can get dressed and I'll see you in my office. Jackie dressed and met Sandy and the doctor in her office. Jackie. Yours is a rather unique situation. Although I have reversed some of my procedures in the past if the patient was unhappy, it is very rare. I have never performed surgery knowing that it will be reversed. That is why, as I have already told Sandy, I want to make a thorough and careful examination of all the information from today and then have you back for another visit in a week. Sorry for the inconvenience, but as I said, this is an unusual case. Sandy has your appointment slip. Are there any questions? And that was it for the doctor's visit. Jackie and Sandy talked about it all the way home and then most of the evening before bed. Sandy was mostly in favor of the surgery. Look, Jackie. You know you have the second 6 months for sure and most likely a year on top of that. That's a year and a half. Do you want to be as miserable as you have been for another 18 months? And you have to figure that J.D. will be using the other 4 years also. 5.5 years of misery or the surgery and a comfortable life. That's all I have to say. From here, it's your choice. I know. All that you've said makes perfect sense, but I just can't get past the thought of surgically altering my body. That's a huge step and frankly it scares me. The surgery itself scares me. The altering my body scares me. And I feel like I'm losing one more piece of who I am. What will I be if I do this? Who will I be? Will I ever be Jack again? They went to the second appointment and the doctor laid out all of her recommendations and showed them digitally altered photos of what each change would look like. She also presented them with additional options. They left with a folder of photos and a lot to think about. Ultimately, Jackie decided against the surgery and continued on with his contract through June and July. But at the beginning of August he made a trip to Phoenix. The heat there made him decide he could tolerate it no longer. He talked it over with Sandy when he got home and together they decided what to do and made an appointment with Dr. Lindstrom. At the appointment Jackie was given another exam and all options were discussed. Okay. We are going to do the breast, hip, thigh, and buttocks implants and the liposuction around the waist. I would strongly suggest the lower rib removal. It will markedly enhance your figure and be unnoticeable when the rest is undone. Luckily you have no noticeable Adam's apple, but I would suggest a nose job to at least remove that bump and thin it a little in cheek and chin implants. I would also suggest a small amount of lip enhancement. I just don't know if I want you doing anything to my face. I know the cheek and chin implants can be removed, but my nose will be permanently changed. Okay. Tell you what. I'll schedule for the additional options and you can give me your final decision on the day we operate. Sound fair? At work the next day, Jackie had a meeting with Jim and asked him for a 2-week leave for personal reasons. I have everything set up. The crew can handle just about anything that comes up and I'll be available by phone or email. No problem. You have 15 days leave in each 6-month option on your contract. Is there a problem I should know about? Jim asked. No. Just a minor medical procedure and recovery time. Nothing major. Oh. Well, in that case, take your sick leave and save the vacation time. Does our medical plan cover everything? I don't know, but don't worry about it. It's all worked out with the Lindstrom Clinic, Jackie answered. He didn't really want to get into details with Jim. It was all a bit personal and embarrassing. When Jackie got home, Sandy was already there and had dinner ready. At dinner she said, "Boy, was I surprised when J.D. called me in and told me to tell you that he made sure that the company policy will cover it all. I couldn't believe you told him all about it." "He knew?" "How?" "All I told him was it was a minor procedure." "That's it?" "Yeah, well, I asked him if you told him all about it and he said you hadn't. He called the insurance company and asked them if they would cover everything, and they called the clinic who emailed them the bill. Then they called J.D. But that's private medical information. There are laws not between insurance companies and doctors. They have to know what they're paying for, and J.D. Well, you know J.D. You don't tell him no. But I can tell you it won't go further. Chapter 8. The day finally arrived and Sandy drove Jackie to the clinic. The nurses got Jackie all settled in his room and in bed. They started his IVs, told him the doctor would be in shortly. Sandy and Jackie talked about the surgery and Sandy told him, "I really think you should consider the other options. You know as well as I that J.D. is going to exercise every option and you'll be living like this for 5 more years. I just don't know, dear. I hear what you're saying and it sort of makes sense, but I just can't bring myself to do it." "That's okay, honey. I understand." At that moment Dr. Lindstrom came in. "Well, are you ready, Jackie?" "I guess so," he answered with a wry smile. "Good. A nurse will be in with some forms and papers for you to sign. The usual releases, warnings, and such. Then she'll give you something to relax you and I'll see you in the surgery." A short time later the nurse came in and gave him a clipboard and told him, "Read them over. There are some options that the doctor wants you to check mark if you want them and sign at the bottom." Jackie read them over and signed without selecting any options and handed the clipboard to Sandy while the nurse injected something into his fore. "Say goodnight, honey," she said, and Jackie slowly faded to black. The nurse took the clipboard from Sandy and told her that orderlies would be right in to take Jackie to surgery. Many hours later Jackie was returned from the recovery room wrapped in bandages and very groggy. The doctor told Sandy that all went well but that Jackie wouldn't be fully awake until the next morning and suggested that she go home and come back about 9 in the morning. Sandy decided that it was better to go home than sit there staring at Jackie all night while he slept, so she left the clinic. When Sandy arrived the next morning, Jackie was still sleeping, so she sat in a chair and waited. A short while later he started to stir and his eyes flickered open. He turned his head and saw Sandy and made a half smile. "I feel like shit. I hurt everywhere." At that moment a nurse walked in and said, "I noticed on the monitors that you were waking up. How do you feel? How's the pain on a 1 to 10 scale?" "I feel like shit and about an 8, Jackie responded. "This will help with the pain," the nurse told him as she added something to his fore. "It won't dope you up, but it will kill the pain and discomfort. Ring your call button if you need anything else." When the nurse left, Sandy moved to his bedside and he looked up at her. "Why are there bandages on my face? I didn't have anything done there." "I know, honey. I did. You were so unsure and afraid that you decided not to do it, but you weren't really against it either, so I checked the options for you. Please don't be mad at me. What good would it do now? It's done." "What did you check off?" "All of it. Complete nose job, cheek and chin implants, brow lift, eyes, lips. I just checked them all." Jackie groaned and turned his head aside for a bit, then looked back at her. Boy, have you got some explaining to do when we get home. Oh, ouch. It hurts to smile. Sandy moved to give him a hug but couldn't find a place that wasn't bandaged and backed off when she saw him cringe. God, I love you so much. I just want to wrap my arms around you. Let's just leave it at, it's the thought that counts for now, and I love you too. 3 days later, with most of the bandages removed, Jackie was more than ready to go home. He was given a bottle of pain medication and instructions to wear the special support bra 24/7 for the next 2 weeks except for showers. When he looked in the mirror, his face looked like he had gone 10 rounds with the heavyweight boxing champion, but the doctor assured him that the swelling would be gone in a week and most of the bruising by the end of 2 weeks. She told him that by the end of 3 weeks he could cover any remaining bruises with makeup. Sandy informed J.D. that Jackie would be out for at least 3 weeks and maybe a full month, but still available by phone and email. He told her not to worry about it and was more concerned that all was well. She assured him that everything went great. Jackie spent the rest of the week in bed or lounging in the den watching TV. He and Sandy talked a lot about what had been done. He had a lot of concerns. Mostly about how she viewed him. How can you still love me like this? I know what you said, but look at me. I look more like a wife than a husband. Actually, dear, you look more like road pizza than anything else. But seriously, the part that makes you my husband hasn't changed one bit, and when you're feeling better we'll prove it. As for the extras, I think I'll enjoy playing with them as much as you enjoy playing with mine, and I know you will enjoy yours as much as I do mine, she said with a big smile. After 2 weeks, when he was able to get out of the heavy-duty hospital bra and put on one of his regular bras, he stood in front of the mirror and just stared at himself. All of the bruising was gone and his skin had stretched to accommodate the implants. It felt so strange to have feeling in them. The forms had no feeling. They were just there. But now he could feel his breasts inside the smooth soft cups of the bra, and when he walked he could feel the slight jiggle and the bounce. And then there were his enlarged and sensitive nipples that Sandy had given a workout the night before. From his new and very real breasts, his torso, now missing a few ribs, tapered gracefully to a natural 24-inch waist, and that rounded out to his new and expanded hips and butt. They looked great, but it was also a whole new sensation that also bounced and jiggled a bit when he walked, and now the feeling of sitting on a pillow had changed. Before he was just sitting on padding, but now the feeling was more internal and a part of him, literally. What Jackie saw reflected in the mirror was no longer a man dressing and posing as a woman. What he saw was a woman. He really was Jackie now, and it scared him. But at some level, he also liked what he saw. And so did little Jack, and that also worried him. By the middle of the 3rd week he was getting cabin fever. He'd gotten used to getting out of the house and going to work rather than his home office. He needed to get out, so he decided that since he had to do something about his hair and nails, it was time to make an appointment with Janice. The next morning he took a shower and powdered himself afterwards. Then put on a bra and panties and sat at the vanity and blow-dried his hair and pulled it back into a high ponytail. No sense getting fussy when I'm going to the salon, he thought. Then Jackie started on his face. There was very little residual bruising left, and he easily covered it and did his usual makeup as he did for work. When he finished, he put 3 studs in each ear. He'd learned not to wear dangles or hoops to the salon. It was at that point that he backed off his vision and took in the entirety of his appearance fully made up. Jack was nowhere in sight. Holy shit! They really worked a number on me, he said aloud as his eyes glanced downward and took in his new breasts and ample cleavage held in place by his bra. With all the bruising and without makeup the last 2.5 weeks, he had not realized the full extent of his changes. But now, there they were. as plain as the cute little nose on his face. With the brow lift, his eyes were like large doe eyes, and with his prominent cheekbones and cute chin and full lips he had a face that could only be described as cute, pretty, or even beautiful. Jackie reached up and took his hair out of the ponytail and let it fall. Then he brushed it out and fluffed it over his shoulders and let it fall onto his breasts. He looked in the mirror again. Oh my God! I would jump my bones in a heartbeat. He got up and looked in the large mirror where he struck some feminine modeling poses. I'm screwed. No one is ever going to take you seriously again. But you will look great as you're being ignored, he said to the reflection in the mirror. Jackie slid the mirrored door aside and looked at the selection of clothes, deciding what to wear to see Janice. A wry smile crossed his face as he thought, if you got it, flaunt it, and went to Sandy's closet where he found a sheer white short-sleeved blouse with a lower-cut neckline than he had ever been able to wear with the forms. Back in his closet he pulled out a red semi-mini skirt that fell about 4 inches above his knees and put that on. Then a pair of pads and his black patent leather pumps with the 3-inch stiletto heels, and he stood back and took in his reflection. Hot damn! This is actually fun. One of Sandy's pendant necklaces and a dash of perfume, and he grabbed his purse and headed for the front door. A quick check in the hall mirror, a fluff of his hair, and he was out the door. When Jackie walked into the salon, Janice was awestruck. Oh my God, girl, she squealed. What have you done to yourself? You look amazing. Sit that pretty but in this chair and start talking. But before he could utter a word, Janice looked down and said, Holy shit, Jackie. Are those real? Pointing at his new breasts. Jackie nodded and said, and smiled. Then he told Janice the entire story while she touched up his highlights, trimmed, washed, body permed, and set his hair and waxed his legs. He continued while she gave him a manicure and pedicure and finished up by asking, Do you suppose that you could pierce my left ear higher up and put in a small hoop like Sandy has? Janice laughed. Honey, you've gone over the edge. Next thing you know, you'll be pushing a stroller and using those new assets to nurse a baby. Jackie laughed too and replied, I don't think that can happen. Back at the house, Jackie texted Sandy and told her to expect to go out for dinner and drinks to celebrate his liberation from hiding out in the house. When she arrived home, Jackie met her at the front door dressed in a brand new LBD that did more than reveal cleavage. It damn near revealed all of his boobs and was short enough that one wrong move would show his smoky gray stocking tops and garter straps. His hair flowed in soft waves over his shoulders and over his breasts in front and on well past the middle of his back, and his shiny long red nails flashed in the entryway light. Oh wow! You've been shopping and to the salon, you look amazing. I'm going to look like the ugly girlfriend tonight. What the hell is keeping you from popping out of that dress and new shoes too? 4-inch strappy stilettos? You know what they call shoes like that, don't you? Are we going out trolling for studs tonight? Oh God, no. I just thought we'd go to dinner at Guido's and maybe move to the lounge afterwards for a cocktail before going home. And yes, I know what they are called, but they make my legs look great, and double-sided tape, Jackie answered. Tape? Yeah. The sales girl told me to use double-sided tape to keep my boobs in the dress, Jackie explained. Oh. Yeah. Well, let me go clean up and change. I doubt I can compete with you, but I'll try. Your hair and nails look awesome, by the way. It was a Wednesday night, so the restaurant and lounge were rather quiet. After dinner they went to the lounge where only a few couples were having drinks. Although not crowded, it did not prevent every male eye present from making note of Jackie's passage through the restaurant and lounge. Jackie noticed and experienced an emotional high that he had never had before. Sandy noticed his smile as they sat down at a secluded table and whispered, "Kinda neat, huh?" "Huh? What?" "Being an attractive woman and having every male eye in the room acknowledge it," she answered. Jackie lowered his eyes to the tabletop and answered quietly, "Yes. It is." Jack never had anything like that happen with the ladies. "I'm getting worried. I think I'm getting to the point where I'm more than just looking like a woman." "Oh, honey. You passed just looking like a woman months ago. You walk, talk, gesture and act like a natural-born woman, and that's a good thing. You don't have to worry about anyone reading you as a man in a dress, and besides, you know you like it. If you didn't, you never would have done what you did today. That trip to the salon and the clothes shopping was strictly and completely female-driven behavior. But I don't want to lose Jack. He has to come back when this is over." "Does he, Jackie? More to the point, can he? It's the beginning of September. You've been living like this just 2 months shy of a year, and you have at least another year to go. You know as well as I do that J.D. will exercise all of his options, and that means a total of 5 more years. Where will Jack be in 5 years? I don't know, but I know you don't want a woman for a husband. And I won't have as long as little Jack is still around. The rest makes no difference to me. As a matter of fact, I surprisingly find I quite like having Jackie around. I love my husband Jack with all my heart, but only at one level. I love my girlfriend, husband, and lover Jackie the same, but at many different levels. Like right now I'm out with my girlfriend Jackie. Later I'll be in bed with my lover Jackie, and I'll make love to my husband little Jack." "You're serious? You don't mind me like this?" "I told you that I love you unconditionally, and I meant it. What form you have makes no difference. Jack is and always will be inside you. Even if something did happen to little Jack. I don't know if I could do the same if you suddenly turned into a man." "You couldn't? Damn. Well, I'll cancel that plan," Sandy said, smiling. On the drive home, Sandy said, "I just thought of one condition I want." "Oh. Yes. On Saturday we will go to the jewelry store where we bought my wedding ring set and buy you an identical set. I want everyone to know you're spoken for. I accept your one condition." On Monday, Jackie was back at work. His friends and coworkers were stunned and had many compliments and kind words, and for the first time in anyone's memory, J.D. was speechless. He just waved his hand and pointed to his office. Jackie walked in and closed the door. Jim dropped into his chair and said, "Holy shit, Jackie. I knew from the insurance company that you were going in for some plastic surgery, but... I mean, you were pretty good looking before, but now? You're a damn knockout. Is that all you now? I mean, if I can ask, that is?" "Yeah, Jim. You can ask, but only you. And yes, it's all me. No more padding, enhancements or constrictions. I just couldn't stand them any longer, and because knowing you to be the bastard that you are, I assume that you'll keep me on the hook for the entire contract. Tell me if I am wrong." "You're not wrong, Jackie. And you're the only person that I would ever let call me a bastard to my face and let get away with it. Damn, you look amazing. Now get to work." Chapter 9. Things settled into a routine for the next couple of years. Jackie made a lot of changes in their materials handling and shipping and shifted personnel and operations around to increase efficiency. J.D. Myers saw their bottom line skyrocket and stock prices increase. J.D. credited most of it to Jackie's ability to manage people and operations. Then one day his routine was disturbed when Sandy announced that she was pregnant. They had decided it was time for a family and had been trying for a while. Jackie was ecstatic. They went out to dinner at Guido's to celebrate but skipped the drinks afterwards. They only had one hurdle: telling J.D. Because Sandy and Jackie both believed that breastfeeding was the best way to go, Sandy wanted to take a 6-month to 1-year leave of absence and they didn't think J.D. would approve. Sandy had a meeting with J.D. and told him she was pregnant and what they had planned. She was surprised when he didn't reject it out of hand but instead said he would think about it and get back to her. A week later he called Jackie and Sandy into his office. "First off, congratulations to both of you. Kids are amazing. I love mine and I think you will make great parents. Now, with that said, I have done a lot of thinking and checking around regarding Sandy's request for a leave. Bottom line, I can't spare you from day-to-day operations. I need you here in the office. Of course you both will be given the mandatory maternity leave if you request it, but I believe I have a viable alternative." He took a deep breath and looked at them both as they waited for him to continue. "Now, although I cannot spare Sandy from the office, I can spare Jackie. You can and have performed most satisfactorily both from home and while away on trips. So I would propose that you, Jackie, stay home to care for the baby and work from home. If your presence is absolutely required in the office for a meeting or whatever, we can make babysitting arrangements. That way you both continue at full pay and the office is minimally impacted." "But we wanted to breastfeed the baby and only Sandy can do that," Jackie interjected. "I'm getting to that. I checked around with your doctor, Jackie, and other medical experts about breastfeeding. One option would be to use a breast pump and bottle feed while Sandy is at work, but that is not entirely satisfactory because she would have to use the pump at work and for bonding and other inconveniences. Another is a wet nurse, but then the parental bonding during breastfeeding is completely lost. But another option, considering your situation, Jackie, is that it is quite possible to induce lactation in your breasts so that you could feed the baby, thus freeing Sandy completely to work and providing the bonding with the baby. They can give you injections and pills to make your breasts produce milk. So those are your options and it's your choice. Just let me know your decision and I'll make the arrangements." Jackie and Sandy were dumbfounded by J.D.'s presentation and proposition. And that is exactly what it was like, a business proposition. They left his office saying they would get back to him. At home they talked at length over the next few days and Jackie did a lot of research on the internet. Finally they decided to make an appointment with Sandy's doctor. At the appointment her doctor was surprised to find out about Jackie, but after a complete explanation she admitted that it was likely possible and she would look into it. At a subsequent appointment, Sandy's doctor told them that because of the type of implant used on Jackie, it was very likely that he could be made to lactate. Jackie and Sandy talked about it for several weeks and finally decided to accept J.D.'s plan. Because Jackie would be on female hormones, the doctor insisted that they collect his sperm and freeze it, just in case. Then Jackie was started on a regimen of shots and pills to mature his mammary glands but carefully monitored to maintain his male function as well. Once that was done he would be given different medications to make his body think it was pregnant and then others to start his milk flowing. Just before Sandy delivered, Jackie went through puberty again, but as a girl this time. His breasts, which settled into barely a C cup, became a nice full C cup and his skin became much softer and he gained a feminine glow that Sandy loved. He also went from 34-inch hips to 36, which also pleased Sandy, but Jackie not as much. He actually found himself asking the age-old question, "Does my butt look fat?" which made Sandy go near hysterical. By the time Sandy delivered, Jackie was ready. He had been lactating for several weeks and using the breast pump to encourage further milk production, so when the baby was brought to Sandy's maternity room for feeding, it was handed to Jackie and he nursed it. Jackie bonded with their new son Morgan like few men ever experience. He became a mother in every respect except giving birth. He did the 2 o'clock feedings, changed diapers, bathed, dressed, and fed him. When the family went out, Janice's joking prediction was completely fulfilled. Jackie packed the diaper bag and pushed the stroller. He was also the one that bragged and talked to others, telling them all the details of Morgan's life and sharing pictures. He breastfed Morgan for 8.5 months, and then when Morgan decided it was time for more substantial food, he went on baby food and formula and then the sippy cup. All through this time, Jackie did double duty. He was a mother and also continued with his contract. Sandy became more like the breadwinner even though Jackie actually earned more. The only real downside that Jackie and Sandy had during that year was that little Jack stopped working. It was a risk that they knowingly took going into it and they lost. No amount of medical intervention was able to restore Jackie's male function. Sandy felt terrible and tried to reassure him that it was okay and they could still enjoy each other in other ways. She was worried how he would take it. She was completely surprised when Jackie seemed to just accept it, saying, "I'm not that worried about it. If you can live without little Jack, so can I. What's important is we have each other, and besides, we still have a man in the house," he said, smiling down at Morgan nursing at his breast. When Morgan was a year old, they made arrangements for a babysitter. Jackie just couldn't stand the idea of a daycare. He wanted his son to stay in the house and have individual and dedicated care. They hired a young woman, a single mom, with a daughter the same age as Morgan to babysit him. It worked out perfectly for everyone. She was employed but able to take care of both babies and not have the cost of daycare. She loved Morgan like her own, and he had a playmate. So Jackie returned to work and began the 4th year of his contract. Everything settled down into their new routine until about 6 months later, when Sandy started making noises about expanding their family. "We don't want to have children too far apart. Plus, we don't want to wait too late and still have kids in the house or college when we are ready to retire." Jackie wasn't exactly thinking about retirement. They had both just turned 29. That seemed a long way off yet. But he did agree with her about more children. He was still the primary child care member of the two, and with him thinking about another baby, Sandy had no trouble convincing him. J.D. was once again the only hurdle. When they presented it to him, he listened carefully and made some notes on a pad. "I figured this was going to happen," J.D. started out. "I remember back when my wife and I were your age. Anyway, I have a contract proposal prepared for you, Jackie, and I have it right here." Jackie and Sandy visibly cringed. J.D. chuckled. "Hey, I think you will like this one, but I'll understand if you want to show it to your lawyer before signing." "Damn straight, Jim," Jackie said, and Sandy nodded. J.D. laughed. "I have come to really like you, Jackie. You're the only person that calls me Jim. Plus, I actually consider you and Sandy to be friends. And in addition, you have made amazing changes to this company, and I think you know it as well as, and in some cases better than, I do. That's why I propose that when Sandy has the baby, I release you from whatever remains on your contract. Under the new contract, you take 1 year to care for the baby while working from home. Then at the end of that year, I will retire and you will take my place as CEO of the entire operation. I will stay on as chairman of the board. Your contract will be for 10 years, renewable at the board's option until you reach age 60, when you may retire at full salary and benefits." Sandy and Jackie just stared at each other, then turned to J.D. and Jackie said, "Are you shitting me, Jim?" "Not at all. You earned it and you deserve it. I can't think of anyone I'd rather leave in charge of my baby than you. Besides, my wife is on my ass to retire and this will give me some peace on the home front." "Do I get to be J.L. then?" "Absolutely. I'll even put it in the contract if you want," he said, smiling. Sandy could see that Jackie was ready to sign and cut in. "That won't be necessary, but we do want to have our lawyer look at it first," and took the contract from J.D. Epilogue. Bob Ward, their lawyer, advised Jackie to sign it and get it back to J.D. as soon as possible before he changed his mind. "This contract will make you 2 millionaires. You'll be set for life and the lives of your kids," he told them. So it was signed. Sandy had her baby, a girl named Madison, and Jackie took care of her the same as he had Morgan. At the end of the year, he returned to work, and after J.D.'s retirement party, Jackie took over as CEO. They bought a new and larger home and hired their babysitter as a full-time live-in nanny. 2 years later, Jackie and Sandy took a month-long vacation to Thailand where, with Sandy's complete support and encouragement, Jackie underwent one more surgery and returned home as physically complete a woman as she had become mentally. And as Jackie said to Sandy, "Now we can take full advantage of all those great toys you've been buying. Like I told you at the very beginning of all this, whenever I scheme or lie, I get screwed. But this time I'm looking forward to it."